Chapter 1471. In the arena of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. Seeing that Yuhauran was ignoring him, the white-haired ancestor, who was furious, threatened him with a gloomy expression. Yuhauran, you'd better not come to the eastern region for the rest of your life. Otherwise, the ancestors of the Hong family will definitely make sure you never return. If I have the time and opportunity in the future, I will personally visit the Hong family in the eastern region and see if your Hong family can withstand my monstrous anger. In the face of the white-haired ancestor's threat, Yuhauran also fought back, not to be outdone. However, as the second contestant was forcibly brought into the arena by the leaderboard, Yuhauran quickly withdrew his gaze and immediately raised the white stick in his hand to threaten him. Either you admit defeat or die. Yuhauran, in the dictionary of our demon cultivators, there is no such thing as admitting defeat. In the face of Yuhauran's choice of admitting defeat or dying, a demon cultivator from the northern region replied arrogantly. Overturning rivers and seas. The same move, the same speed, the same result. Before the demon cultivator from the northern region could retract his arrogance, he was directly smashed into a pile of meat paste by the white stick. At the same time, the number behind Yuhauran's name changed from 2 to 3. Stupid. Idiot. Seeing that the demon cultivator from the northern region was directly smashed into meat paste by Yuhauran, Yuan Sangqiong, who was in the stands, and Yuan Haofei, who was below the arena, could not help but comment at the same time. Wang Bingbai, a core disciple of the Heart Source sect in the western region, greets Yu Shixiang. The third contestant, who was forcibly brought into the arena by the leaderboard, took the initiative to introduce himself before Yuhauran could threaten him with a choice. Then, he directly interrupted Yuhauran's white stick and continued to speak while he was about to open his mouth to speak. Although the western region and the southern region are separated by tens of thousands of miles, Yu Shixiang's fame has long spread throughout the western region. I have always. While Wang Bingbai flattered Yuhauran's fame, a trace of pride gradually appeared in his eyes. However, at this moment, a cold light flashed in the eyes of Yuhauran, who had been holding the white stick horizontally, and said in a cold tone, "Illusion mystic mind, confusion mystic technique. It seems that you have chosen to die." Along with his indifferent words, the leaderboard, the demon cultivator from the mystic sect, was also smashed into a pile of meat paste under his incredulous eyes. You're courting death's your life. Just as Wang Binbai was smashed into meat paste by the white stick, a middle-aged woman in the middle of the west side of the stands suddenly stood up. She roared with a ferocious expression and charged toward the ring with a murderous aura while holding a top-grade Exalt Realm sword. Facing the middle-aged woman who had broken the rules of the competition, Peng Yanfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne, suddenly closed his eyes. He had no intention of punishing her. Peng Yanxi's nonchalant attitude made Yuhauran burn with rage. Yuhauran looked at the middle-aged woman, whose cultivation was at the peak of 8th grade martial venerable realm. He planned to kill her with his own strength. However, just as he was about to use the first move of the Monkey Emperor's inheritance, the skyward staff technique, and was about to soar into the sky, 2 purple thunderbolts suddenly shot out from the list that had been calm. One of the purple thunderbolts met the middle-aged woman, instantly turning her into ashes. The other purple thunderbolt hit Peng Yanfei directly, forcing him out of the purple dragon throne and causing him to spit out 3 mouthfuls of blood essence. Hidden Dragon Blessing, what are you doing? Peng Yanfei, who was severely injured, did not have time to wipe off the remaining blood at the corner of his mouth. He questioned the list loudly with a ferocious expression. This is the only time. If you do it again, your soul will be destroyed. In the face of Peng Yanfei's rude questioning, the Hidden Dragon Blessing gave a cold warning from the list. Peng Yanfei's face was pale because of the serious injury. After hearing the Hidden Dragon Blessing's cold warning, his face became even paler. Xue Qingyuan, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne in the southern region, heard the hidden dragon blessings warning to Peng Yanfei and immediately pondered. After looking back and forth between Peng Yanfei, the ranking list, and Yu Haoran, Xue Qingyuan, whose thoughts were instantly replaced by surprise, revealed an unfathomable smile. Peng Yanfei, whose face was as pale as paper, immediately realized his impulsiveness. He quickly knelt on one knee and apologized to the list. Master Hidden Dragon, I was blinded by hatred and forgot my lowly status. I hope Master Hidden Dragon will not be angry. Please forgive me, Master Hidden Dragon. Return to your seat. After nearly 10 seconds of silence, the Hidden Dragon Blessing's voice came from the list. Thank you, Hidden Dragon Lord. Thank you, Hidden Dragon Lord. Peng Yanfei, who was forgiven by the Hidden Dragon Blessing, quickly thanked it a few times and sat back on the purple dragon throne. Then, he immediately took out a top healing elixir that had reached the first grade of the second rank. After taking it, he closed his eyes and began to heal himself. However, Peng Yanfei, who seemed to be grateful for the Hidden Dragon Blessing's forgiveness, was furious in his heart at the moment. Damned Hidden Dragon Providence! You can only be proud of these few years. When the sect master and the elders succeed in cultivating the secret method, you will only be the source of power for us to dominate the Tianxian continent. The Hidden Dragon Blessing took the initiative to kill the middle-aged woman who ruined the competition and punished Peng Yanfei, who turned a deaf ear to it. This further confirmed Yu Haoran's conjecture in his heart. Looking at the list in the air, his gaze suddenly became much gentler. As the fourth contestant was forcibly brought into the ring by the list, Yu Haoran quickly withdrew his gaze from the list. Junior Brother Wang. However, when he saw that the contestant who was forcibly brought into the ring was Wang Qing, who was ranked last on the list from the southern region, not only did he not raise his white cudgel to threaten him, but he also smiled and nodded to greet him. I admit defeat. After raising his head and admitting defeat to the list in the air, Wang Qing excitedly cheered Yu Haoran on. Yu Shixiang, show your dominance in the Southern Region Hidden Dragon Ranking Contest and defeat all the contestants who dare to challenge you. Then, you will become the first person to do so since the Hidden Dragon Ranking Contest was held. Thank you for your encouragement, Junior Brother Wang Qing. I will do my best. Yu Haoran smiled in response to Wang Qing's encouragement. Goodbye, Yu Shixiang. Before the list's power could take effect, Wang Qing quickly waved his hand and quickly turned around to jump out of the ring. Either admit defeat or die. Chapter 1472. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. As a proud genius of the Central Region and a core disciple of an inherited family, the pride in his bones made him unwilling to admit defeat. However, when he thought about how Yu Haoran had not only repelled Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei's joint attack, but had also used a fist technique that could create a deep hole in the void, his fear made him want to admit defeat. The influence of pride and fear made the Central Region contestant fall silent for a moment. It seems like you've already made your choice to die. No matter why his opponent fell silent, as long as he remained silent for more than 3 seconds, Yu Haoran believed that he had already made his choice. Although the Central Region contestant was far stronger than the 3 he had just killed, there was no difference in Yu Haoran's eyes. The same move, the same speed, and the same power. The white cudgel instantly appeared above his opponent's head. His reaction was different from the other 3 regions' contestants. Facing the white cudgel, the Central Region contestant did not panic at all. He immediately took out his natal saber and met the white cudgel head-on. Whether it was the grade of the celestial artifact or the power of the martial technique, the difference between the Central Region's contestants and Yu Haoran was huge. The final result was exactly the same as the contestants from the other 3 regions. Seeing that Yu Haoran had dared to directly kill a genius contestant from the Central Region, a core disciple of an inherited family, some of the contestants below the arena, who had been hoping for a fluke, immediately decided to go up the arena and admit defeat. However, the next contestant who was forcefully brought into the arena was called Ludben. He was ranked 20th in the Eastern Region Hidden Dragon ranking. He was an extremely arrogant, monstrous genius. Therefore, he did not feel the slightest bit of fear because of Yuhauran's fierce killing of the other 4 regions' contestants. See Transforming Dragon. The moment he stepped into the arena, Ludben immediately took out a top-grade Venerable Realm sword and used an early-stage Heaven-class sword technique. He planned to take advantage of this opportunity to force Yuhauran back or severely injure him. He was a peak first-grade martial venerable, and with the help of an early-stage Heaven-class sword technique, he could display the strength of a peak second-grade martial venerable. In Yuhauran's eyes, Luther Ben's strength and methods were no different from those of the 4 regions' contestants he had just killed. Therefore, it was still the same move, the same speed, and the same power. With the help of the rich Xian Huangqi in the prince's mansion, the White Staff, which had advanced to the level of the Supreme Venerable Realm, directly shattered the blue dragon formed by the sword technique and heavily smashed into Ludben's chest. Ludben, who had been sent flying by the staff technique, was like a kite with a broken string as he was thrown out of the arena. Blood spurted out of his mouth like a fountain. Boom! As Luther Ben fell heavily off the stage, the sound of his body crashing into the ground echoed throughout the arena. Following the sound of a heavy object falling to the ground, Ludben stopped spurting out blood, but he just lay there motionlessly. A contestant from the eastern region walked to Ludben's side. With just a glance, he couldn't help but shake his head regretfully. This was because when Yuhauran's attack had shattered Ludben's heart, the remaining power had also shattered the soul in his sea of consciousness. Even the dignified Ludben, who was ranked 20th on the Eastern Region rankings, was no match for Yuhauran's staff. Ludben, who was also ranked 20th on the Northern Region rankings, immediately admitted defeat as soon as his feet touched the stage. Similarly, the 20th on the Western Region rankings, whose strength was similar to Ludben's, also admitted defeat as soon as he stepped onto the stage. The 20th on the Southern Region rankings didn't need to be said. When he admitted defeat, he also cheered and encouraged him, just like Wang Qing. As for the 20th on the Central Region rankings, his name was Bailey Feiwen. Although he was a peak 9th grade martial saint and a peak 4th grade martial venerable, he seemed to have received orders from his family beforehand. His eyes were filled with extreme unwillingness as he finally admitted defeat. In the next half an hour, the so-called wheel race completely turned into a round of surrenders. Regardless of whether the contestants were the fearless demonic cultivators of the northern region or the arrogant monstrous geniuses of the central region, all of them immediately admitted defeat the moment their feet touched the arena. Of course, Yuhauran's thunderous attack had deterred them, and Yusiki, the sword without trace and wind-tailed fox had threatened them. More importantly, most of the contestants who were arranged by the Hidden Dragon luck were ranked at the bottom of their respective regional rankings, or those who were mentally weak. When the 85th opponent of the wheel race, Yuan Gongyi, who was 19th on the Central Region rankings, was about to have a real fight with Yuhauran Wu Jingjun, who was on the south side of the stage, suddenly roared to the sky. Yuhauran, the secret method of tenderness water has been perfected. Jingjun can use the reverse nurturing of the secret method of tenderness water to rapidly transform his realm and strength. After scanning Wu Jingjun with his divine thought, Thaling hurriedly explained to Yuhauran, "Sister Wuhan Jingya, protect junior brother Wu immediately. Whoever dares to come within 3 meters of junior brother Wu, no matter who they are, no matter how powerful the force behind them is, kill them immediately." After hearing Thaling's reminder, while Yuhauran was happy for Wu Jingjun, his subconscious reaction was to ensure his safety when he broke through. Therefore, he immediately ordered Yusiki, the sword without trace, and Kong Yong'a, who were the strongest. Although she was about to break through to Ruthless, in the face of Yuhauran's order, Yusiki's remaining family affection still made her obediently guard in front of Wu Jingjun. The sword without trace and Kong Yung-ah guarded Wu Jingjuan's left and right side. Qin Lingfei, who hadn't been instructed, took the initiative to walk behind Wu Jingjun. She didn't care about expending her origin energy and soul power as she activated the 9 star pearl's powerful defense. Yu Haoran's instinctive reaction, as well as Yusiki and the other three's actions without hesitation, moved everyone present. Because this showed that in Yu Haoran's heart, Wu Jingjun was very important. So important that his subconscious action was to immediately protect his safety. And Yusiki and the other three's actions without hesitation showed that Wu Jingjun was a companion worth risking their lives to protect. He was also a family member that they could entrust their backs to. Although they were moved, some of the contestants around the stage with ulterior motives did not want to see Wu Jingjuan's strength increase by leaps and bounds after his successful breakthrough, affecting their own ranking competition results. Chapter 1473. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. During the start of the Hidden Dragon ranking, the central square was closely monitored by the Hidden Dragon Fortune and more than 30 venerables. Under normal circumstances, no one would dare to break the rules of the competition. Therefore, whether it was the pagoda spirit in his sea of consciousness, the gorgeous young woman at the top of the East Grandstand, the more than 30 venerables sitting on the dragon throne, or the list floating in midair, none of them noticed the blue-eyed black cat beast that was hiding in the void and quietly approaching Wu Jingjun with the help of the power of the law of nothingness. Without trace, attack a spot 3 meters to your left. Yu Haoran withdrew his gaze from Wu Jingjun and forcefully suppressed the joy surging from his heart. While he was dealing with Ruan Gongyi, who was ranked 19th on the Central Region ranking list, a trace of a familiar poisonous aura immediately alerted him. It was the blue-eyed black cat beast that contained the soul-cleansing and devouring spirit, ranked 43rd on the Tianxian continent's 100 poisons ranking. Yu Haoran, who was familiar with the origin of the poisonous aura, didn't even have time to remind the tower spirit to use its divine sense to track the hiding location of the black blue-eyed cat beast. It immediately relied on its astonishing sensitivity in the Tao of poison to determine the exact location of the black blue-eyed cat beast. After hearing Yu Haoran's anxious reminder, Jian Wuhan did not hesitate at all. He used the legacy sword technique, dragonfly skimming the water, and stabbed at the spot Yu Haoran had pointed out earlier. Meow! As the sword without trace's supreme grade Emperor sword pierced the spot, a miserable howl sounded in the air. Accompanied by a miserable howl, an ordinary third-level venerable realm blue-eyed black cat beast was stared at by the supreme grade Emperor sword. On the east side of the arena, an ordinary-looking girl with a hot body looked at the blue-eyed black cat beast that the sword without trace had nailed to death with his supreme grade Emperor sword. Her eyes flashed with a cold light. Bang! Just as Jian Wuhan used his sword to nail down the venomous black-eyed cat beast, a forceful slapping sound came from the east side of the spectator stands. Immediately after, a terrifying aura that was countless times more powerful than heaven's might instantly rose. When Yu Haoran saw that his keen observation wasn't wrong, and that the one that secretly ambushed Wu Jingjun was precisely the green-eyed black cat beast that contained the soul-cleansing and spirit-devouring poison and was adept at hiding in the void, he couldn't help but secretly heave a sigh of relief. At the same time, a wave of rage that was like a monstrous wave surged out from his heart. The timely arrangement of protection measures just now had already proved the importance of Wu Jingjun in his heart. Under these circumstances, there were still people who wanted to utilize the soul-cleansing and spirit-devouring poison contained within the azure-eyed black cat to launch a sneak attack on him. Not only did they harbor evil intentions, they obviously didn't take him seriously. How could this not cause Yu Haoran to feel furious? However, before the anger in his heart could fully ignite, he was alarmed by the terrifying aura rising from the eastern spectator's stand. Hurriedly turning his head to look, Howren discovered that the expert who was emitting the terrifying aura was actually a beautiful young woman with an unparalleled charm. He couldn't help but stare blankly for a moment. Howren, it's her. She's the woman who used the overflowing water-tender feelings secret technique on Wu Jingjun. Thaling, who had also detected the terrifying aura, immediately shouted excitedly at Howren after careful observation and identification. Impossible! After hearing Thaling's reminder, Howren's first reaction was that it was impossible. This was because not only did he know the true background of the beautiful young woman in front of him, he was also very clear about her own excellence and strength. To be honest, Wu Jingjun didn't even have the qualifications to carry her shoes. How could she possibly fall in love with Wu Jingjun? Howren, do you know her? Faced with Howren's doubts, Thaling immediately asked. Thaling, this woman's surname is Zhongli, and her name is Shueqin. She comes from a very terrifying family in the eastern region. Faced with Thaling's questioning, Howren nodded his head and explained. In my previous life, I met her in the periphery of the demon god's ancient tomb. I once saw with my own eyes how she easily defeated the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Temple Master and the Carefree Valley Master. Defeating Qiantian Yu, who was known as the #1 loose cultivator, in 5 moves, defeating the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Temple Master in 7 moves, and defeating the Carefree Valley Master in 10 moves. The terrifying strength that Zhongli Shueqin displayed in the periphery of the demon god's ancient tomb had left a very deep impression in his heart. Zhongli Shueqin. Hearing Howren mention the surname and name of the beautiful young woman, Thaling vaguely felt a trace of familiarity. She couldn't help but recall carefully. Who on earth dared to use the green-eyed black cat beast, which contains the soul-cleansing and spirit-devouring poison, to secretly attack my husband? Zhongli Shueqin, who exuded a terrifying aura, directly rose into the air. Then, she looked at the countless experts in the stands around, her eyes stirring with monstrous anger that could erupt at any time. In the face of Zhongli Shueqin's question, even the heavenly demon sect's Master Yuan Sangqiong, the Yushu Temple's 3 Calamities Quasi-Emperor Wu Realm's Supreme Elder, and the Zhou family's patriarch Zhou Yuz didn't dare to raise their heads to look directly at Zhongli Shueqin, who was floating in the air. After hearing the familiar voice, Wu Jingjun, who was using the secret technique to reverse nourish and break through the state of mind, hurriedly raised his head to look at Zhongli Shueqin, who was floating above the east stand. A trace of panic immediately flashed in his eyes. Then, he looked at Howren in the arena. Guilt and worry immediately replaced the panic of Wu Jingjun, and thoughts of struggle emerged in his heart. If senior brother knew that he had provoked such a woman when he was training in the military palace, would he look down on him from now on, or even not pay attention to him in the future? If senior brother knew that he couldn't help but promise Zhongli Shueqin to marry him, would he be so angry that he would expel him from the prince's mansion? After all, Zhongli Shueqin was a widow who had lost her man. She was a woman who should be loyal and filial to her husband's family and keep her chastity. Howren, how much do you know about the Zhongli family? After carefully recalling, Thaling finally found detailed information about the surname of Zhongli in the deepest part of his memory. At the same time that he understood the strength of the Zhongli family, the worry that emerged in his heart made him immediately ask. Thaling, you also know that I was limited by my cultivation and strength in my previous life, so I don't know much about some of the top families in the Tianqian continent. I only know that the Zhongli family is a powerful force that even the Yushu Temple doesn't dare to provoke easily. Howren shook his head and replied. Howren, in total, the Middle Ages, which lasted more than 135.6 million years, there were countless experts who achieved the status of supreme martial artists. Only 3 supreme martial artists existed forever, and no one could challenge their supreme martial artist status. Chapter 1474. In the ring of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. After 3 years of training, Yu Haoran had come into contact with the experts of the family clans of different generations, and then combined with some of the secrets that the Tower Spirit had intentionally and unintentionally revealed, Yu Haoran had a completely new understanding of the division of martial arts cultivation realms. In fact, martial arts cultivation was divided into 4 stages. The first stage was the early stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial disciple, martial warrior, and martial master. The second stage was the middle stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial ancestor, martial king, and martial emperor. The third stage was the later stage of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial saint, martial venerable, and emperor Wu. The fourth stage was the peak of martial arts cultivation. It was divided into 3 stages: martial god, supreme, and immortal. Since the ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the recent ancient times, there were legends about how difficult it was to break through the martial god realm, supreme, and immortal. After the end of the recent ancient times, due to the continuous deterioration of the environment, the Heavenly Way's broken rules and restrictions on martial arts cultivation caused it to be more difficult for martial artists to break through the cultivation realms. Therefore, there were legends about how difficult it was to break through the martial venerable realm, Emperor Wu, and martial god realm. As for the supreme and immortal realms, they had long disappeared. Therefore, the Supreme was a brand new realm of martial arts cultivation. It was also a title that symbolized the Supreme's status. For example, the reason why the 4 great guardian families were able to maintain their complete inheritance and peak strength after the destruction of the ancient times, the Middle Ages, and the recent ancient times. They were the absolute overlords of the mysterious heavenly continent. The reason was that the blue dragon, white tiger, vermilion bird, and black tortoise in their ancestral bloodline were the supreme divine beasts of the ancient times. For example, the Shang clan and the Zhou clan from the Middle Ages were ambitious to dominate the entire Tianxian continent and recreate the glory of the Middle Ages. However, the inheritance of the bloodline of the martial god realm would only weaken the power of their inheritance. Their dream of recreating the peak of the Middle Ages would only remain in their imagination. For example, the Zhongli clan that Zhongli Shuiqin belonged to was the supreme evergreen, who was known as the strongest supreme in the Middle Ages. The eternal green supremacy was famous during the period of destruction of the ancient times. He was one of the oldest supreme being experts during the Middle Ages. Eternal Green Supreme, Xingtian Supreme, Laozi, the number 1 alchemist, were the strongest supremes who had the highest chance of entering the immortal realm. After hearing Thaling's detailed introduction of the Zhongli family, Yu Haoran's envy of Wu Jingjuan's fortuitous encounter was replaced by deep doubt. As one of the 3 most powerful supremes in the Middle Ages, the descendant of the eternal green supremacy, Zhongli Shuiqin, who had the hope of becoming a 9th-grade martial god and a supremacy in the future, what exactly did she see in Wu Jingjun that she did not hesitate to use her own primordial qi to perform the tenderness technique to help him quickly break through his cultivation and strength? Moreover, according to Zhongli Shuiqin's present attire, it was obvious that she was not a girl waiting to be married, but a young woman who was already married. Then, why did she fall in love with Wu Jingjun? Yu Haoran, the reason why Zhongli Shuiqin fell in love with Wu Jingjun is not important. What you really need to consider now is whether they can be together. After hearing Yu Haoran's question, Thaling could not help but shake his head and remind him with a serious expression. Because clans with the supreme being bloodline attach great importance to the purity of their inherited bloodline, and pay attention to marriage of equal social status. Clans with the strongest supreme being bloodline, like the Zhongli clan, are not inferior to the 4 great guardian clans in terms of status and influence. Then, only forces at the level of the 4 great guardian clans can form marriage alliances with them. If you agree to the relationship between Wu Jingjun and Zhongli Shuiqin, then in the near future, You will not only have to bear the terrifying oppression of the Zhongli clan, but also the monstrous wrath of the 4 great guardian clans. After hearing Thaling's reminder, Yu Haoran suddenly felt the pressure on his shoulders suddenly increase, so heavy that he could not breathe. Seeing that no one in the stands dared to admit the sneak attack just now, Zhongli Shuiqin's anger grew as she looked directly at the 6 venerables above the central square. Especially Peng Yanfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne, because she suddenly thought of her sweetheart, who in order to support her most respected senior, had come out to threaten all the contestants and was bound to offend Peng Yanfei, who was deliberately targeting Yu Haoran. Then, as the hall master of the 5 regions' hidden dragon fortress, Peng Yanfei, who was at the peak of the 9th grade martial venerable, was suspected of the sneak attack, and also had the strength to control the blue-eyed black cat beast. The punishment of the hidden dragon fortune and Yu Haoran's easy 84 victories made Peng Yanfei, who was using healing, feel very irritated. Now, being stared directly by Zhongli Shuiqin's murderous gaze, Peng Yanfei, whose irritation was replaced by anger, suddenly opened his eyes and shouted at Zhongli Shuiqin. Zhongli Shuiqin, immediately return to your seat. Otherwise, don't blame me for using the reason of breaking the rules of the competition to expel you from the hidden dragon fortress. After hearing Peng Yanfei's shout at Zhongli Shuiqin, the few top experts from the east and central regions who knew the origin of the Zhongli clan could not help but change their expressions. They looked at Peng Yanfei with a trace of pity and mockery. Peng, did you secretly control the blue-eyed black cat beast with the soul-cleansing and soul-devouring poison to attack Wu Jingjun? Ignoring Peng Yanfei's shout, Zhongli Shuiqin walked through the air towards the central square and questioned him with a fierce expression. He's just a martial saint-ant. If I wanted to take his life, it would be as easy as flipping my hand. I wouldn't need to use such a despicable method like a sneak attack, Peng Yanfei replied with a disdainful expression in the face of Zhongli Shuiqin's fierce questioning. Pa. But just as his contemptuous reply fell, a slender jade-like hand appeared in front of him in an instant and rewarded him with 2 slaps on his face, left and right. The crisp sound of a slap to the face caused several peak experts who were familiar with the Zhongli family's background to rejoice in their misfortune. However, the countless spectators and contestants who did not understand the Zhongli family's strength were dumbfounded. Peng Yanfei, who was suddenly slapped in the face, first reached out to touch his burning cheeks with a look of disbelief in his eyes. This was because he could not believe that there was actually someone in this world who dared to slap him in the face. Moreover, it was 2 resounding slaps in the main square. However, the burning pain caused him to gradually wake up from his shock. Following that, rage quickly rose in his heart, causing him to roar and directly charge at Zhongli Shuiqin. Chapter 1475. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. Looking at Peng Yanfei, who was rushing toward her, Zhongli Shuiqin looked up at the list in the air. Then, she slowly raised her hand, intending to kill Peng Yanfei directly. However, 3 figures suddenly appeared in front of her and shouted at Peng Yanfei at the same time. Get lost! It was Heavenly Devil Sect Master Yuan Sangqiong. You're courting death. It was a middle-aged beautiful woman in a fiery cloud dress, about 40 years old. Hall leader Peng, back off. It was Highest Elder Wu, the 3rd Tribulation Emperor Wu of the Yushu Temple. Seeing the 3 top experts, who could kill him in one move, standing up for Zhongli Shuiqin, the shock in his heart completely suppressed his anger. Especially when he saw the warning in the eyes of the highest elder of the Yushu Temple, who was close to him, Peng Yanfei immediately realized that Zhongli Shuiqin was not someone he could easily provoke. Thank you. Therefore, Peng Yanfei, who cherished his life, thanked the highest elder of the Yushu Temple, Yuan Sangqiong, and the middle-aged beautiful woman. Then, he turned around and sat back on the purple dragon throne, closing his eyes to heal himself. Who told you to meddle in my business? Zhongli Shuiqin complained when she saw Yuan Sangqiong and the other two take the initiative to ask Peng Yanfei to back off. Because with her powerful strength, she could kill Peng Yanfei with a simple palm technique. Ha ha! Yuan Sangqiong did not care about Zhongli Shuiqin's complaint. He laughed a few times and then said gently, "Your brother, go back to your hometown. Little Shuiqin, go back and tell your elder brother that I, Yuan Sangqiong, am craving for a cup of drunken immortal that he brewed himself." Then, without giving Zhongli Shuiqin any chance to speak, he disappeared and appeared on the stone chair at the top of the north stand. "Miss Shuiqin, please ask Patriarch Zhongli for me. The tribulation of heaven and earth is coming, and the experts of the 100 clans are about to come out. Will the Zhongli clan come out to fight?" The Taishang elder of Yushu Temple cupped his hands and asked a question. Like Yuan Sangqiong, he returned to the stone chair at the top of the south stand. "Shuiqin, although our Vermilion Bird clan doesn't expect you to be filial and remain chaste for Yuan, we still hope that you can have self-respect and self-respect. Don't disgrace the bloodline of our ancestors." Turning her head to look at Wu Jingjun, who was using the secret technique to make a breakthrough in his state of mind, the beautiful middle-aged woman in the fire cloud dress had a trace of fierce killing intent flash in her eyes. She raised her head to warn Zhongli Shuiqin. "Huashan Yu, what is the meaning of this?" Faced with the warning of the middle-aged woman, Zhongli Shuiqin's expression suddenly changed. "You, Zhongli Shuiqin, should know very well what I mean." Huashan Yu threw a cold glance at Zhongli Shuiqin, then instantly returned to the stone chair at the top of the west stand. Yu Haoran looked hesitant as he looked up at the scene that had just taken place in the air. Especially when he heard Huashan Yu of the Vermilion Bird clan, one of the 4 guardian families, warning Zhongli Shuiqin. The hesitation in his eyes was immediately replaced by determination. Then, he cupped his hands and made a request to the list in the air. "Hidden Dragon Blessing, can you give me a few minutes to deal with my personal affairs, just like during the Hidden Dragon ranking battle in the South region?" Seeing that Yu Haoran was delusional enough to ask for rest, Peng Yanfei, who opened his eyes instantly, could not help but sneer. Because in his opinion, Yu Haoran's request was completely a fool's dream. How could the Hidden Dragon Blessing agree to such an outrageous request? In fact, Peng Yanfei was not the only one who thought so. All the contestants in the stands and under the arena also did not believe that the Hidden Dragon Blessing would agree to Yu Haoran's outrageous request. Yes. But when the voice of the Hidden Dragon Blessing's permission came from the list, everyone present, including the top experts like Yuan Sangqiong, could not help but be stunned. Peng Yanfei, who quickly woke up from his daze, suddenly looked up at the list in the air, and a thoughtful look appeared in his eyes. At this moment, he felt that he had been deceived. He felt that the reason why the Hidden Dragon Blessing readily agreed to his arrangement of the Hidden Dragon Blessing was not because of his manipulation. Instead, it seemed that it had set a trap for Yu Haoran in advance. The purpose was to use the means of the Hidden Dragon Blessing to help Yu Haoran quickly improve his cultivation and strength. Looking away from the list, Peng Yanfei did not continue to operate to heal his injuries. Instead, he looked at Yu Haoran in the arena. Because as long as he continued to observe the order of the contestants arranged by the Hidden Dragon Blessing, he would know whether his speculation was correct. "Thank you." After cupping his hands and thanking the list, Yu Haoran signaled to the Sword Without Trace, who was under the arena. "Wu Hen, give me the body of the blue-eyed black cat beast." "Here." The Sword Without Trace, who had been using the tip of his sword to pick up the body of the blue-eyed black cat beast, nodded and then threw it towards the arena. The body of the blue-eyed black cat beast fell steadily at Yu Haoran's feet. He bent down and took a drop of blood from the wound of the blue-eyed black cat beast, as well as pulled out a strand of blue hair. Then, according to the smell of the blood and hair, he began to track who had ordered the blue-eyed black cat beast to secretly attack Wu Jingjun. Soon, Yuhauran locked onto a girl with an ordinary appearance but a very hot figure, dressed in black, at the east side of the arena. Instantly appearing at the edge of the east side of the arena, Yuhauran asked Lu Wan sharply, "Speak, why did you order the blue-eyed black cat beast to secretly attack my junior brother Wu Jingjun?" Facing Yuhauran's sharp question, Zhongli Shuiqin, who instantly appeared beside Yuhauran, looked at him with eyes full of strong killing intent. Lu Wan, who pretended to be at a loss, asked back with a puzzled expression, "Yu Shixiang, what are you talking about? How come I, your junior sister, don't know what you mean?" Facing Lu Wan's pretense of being at a loss, Yuhauran couldn't help but mock her with a cold smile. "Pretend, keep pretending." Then, he threw the drop of blood that he had taken from the body of the blue-eyed black cat beast into the air. His 10 fingers quickly formed a secret seal, and at the same time, controlled the seal to directly merge with the blood. After all 9 seals had merged with the blood, the originally bright red blood had now completely turned black. At the same time, on Lu Wan's forehead, a weak black spot also appeared. The green soul-devouring poison, ranked 40th on the Profound Sky Continent's 100 Poisons ranking. It can separate the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls of a martial artist's soul, and then it will be devoured bit by the poison, causing the martial artist to suffer inhuman pain before his soul will scatter. Looking up at the black blood floating in the air, Yuhauran introduced it with a calm expression. Chapter 1476. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. Yuhauran's detailed introduction of the green soul-devouring poison made everyone's scalp tingle. They also wanted to know what he was going to do with the green soul-devouring poison. Coincidentally, I, Yuhauran, am not only an alchemy emperor, but also a poison master who is proficient in poison Dao. I can use the aura of the green soul-devouring poison to track down people who have been in close contact with the blue-eyed black cat beast. Yuhauran threatened with a faint smile when he saw Lu Wan's slightly pale face and a trace of panic flashing through her eyes. "So, you'd better admit that you're the one who drove the blue-eyed black cat beast to attack my junior brother. Otherwise, I'll let you have a taste of the pain of your soul being forcibly separated from your divine soul and being devoured bit by bit." Lu Wan couldn't help but take 3 steps back due to the fear that surged in her heart. Just as she was about to open her mouth to say something, her expression suddenly froze. Then, Lu Wan's fear was replaced by surprise. She calmly raised her head and complained to Peng Yanfei, who was in midair. "Hall Leader Peng, I don't know Senior Brother Wu, so I didn't order the blue-eyed black cat beast to attack Senior Brother Wu. Yuhauran is completely slandering me." Moreover, this junior speculates that the reason Yuhauran slandered this junior's innocence is very likely because he wants to use someone else to do his dirty work. His goal is to eliminate opponents who can threaten him in the tag team battle. After all, I'm the 16th ranked expert in the Central Region Hidden Dragon ranking battle. Therefore, I implore Lord Hall Master to uphold justice for this junior and return this junior's innocence. As the saying goes, catch adulterers in pairs and thieves in stolen goods. In the face of Lu Wan's grievance and complaint, Peng Yanfei immediately pretended to enforce the law impartially. "Yuhauran, since you suspect that contestant Lu Wan is the one who secretly drove the blue-eyed black cat beast to attack Wu Jingjun, then please take out sufficient evidence. Otherwise, I'll kill you on the arena for breaking the competition rules." Ignoring Peng Yanfei's pretentious threat, Yuhauran looked straight at Lu Wan, whose eyes were filled with pride, and nodded with a slight smile. "Okay, since you want to enjoy the process of your soul being devoured bit by bit, I'll fulfill your wish." His 10 fingers quickly formed a seal, and then merged into the body of the blue-eyed black cat beast. After that, the black blood floating in the air also quickly flew towards the corpse of the black-eyed cat beast, and then directly merged into the corpse through the wound. Just as the black blood merged into the corpse of the green-eyed black cat, the faint black spots on Lu Wan's forehead began to gradually turn black and expand, quickly covering her entire face. What did you do to me? The strange change on her face and the familiar poisonous aura caused Lu Wan's expression to change as she asked. Raising his head to look at Peng Yanfei in the air, Yu Haoran replied with a cold smile, soul-returning aura technique. The soul-returning aura technique was a secret technique that was upgraded from the tracking technique. Even if one was millions of miles away, one could still accurately track the opponent's position based on the aura of the objects they had touched. However, the soul-returning aura technique had been lost since the end of ancient times. In Yu Haoran's previous life, when he was exploring the forbidden area of the Death Swamp, he found a jade slip that recorded the aura soul-returning technique in a cave left behind by a martial saint expert of the ancient times. Pil Emperor Yu, can you forgive Wan Er's mistake for my sake? After hearing Yu Haoran's answer, a middle-aged man wearing a purple robe with a hawk-like nose and hawk-like eyes begged. Turning his head to look at the hawk-like middle-aged man, Yu Haoran asked coldly, "Do I know you?" The Lu clan that originated from the Darkhan dynasty in the near ancient times. I'm sure Alchemy Emperor Yu has heard of it. Facing Yu Haoran's cold question, the middle-aged man didn't get angry at all and laughed lightly. Then, he introduced with a slightly proud expression. Never heard of it. He didn't even care about Shang Jie and Shang Baijian from the Middle Ancient Shang dynasty, let alone a clan from the Late Ancient Shang dynasty. What's more, Lu Wan had originally planned to admit that she was the murderer who secretly drove the blue-eyed black cat beast. The reason why she suddenly calmed down and thought of complaining to Peng Yanfei was definitely because someone had secretly reminded her through telepathic thoughts. And this person who used divine sense to secretly remind her must be the Lu clan's chief of staff, who pleaded for mercy for Lu Wan. Therefore, Yu Haoran's attitude was still cold as he replied. The proud smile on his face instantly disappeared as the middle-aged man threatened with a gloomy face. So, Pil Emperor Yu doesn't plan on giving me face. Scram! In response to the middle-aged man's threat, Yu Haoran, who was under heavy pressure and in a very bad mood, directly replied rudely and overbearingly. Good, very good. Not only did he not give face to the dignified Lu clan's chief of the late ancient clan, but he also dared to insult him in front of countless experts present. This made the Lu clan's chief immediately unable to restrain his anger. After saying good twice, he slowly closed his eyes. Then, he began to use a special secret method to contact the clan's ancestor. He planned to directly kill Yu Haoran in front of countless experts after the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking competition ended. Pil Emperor Yu, I was wrong. I secretly ordered the black-eyed cat to sneak attack Wu Jingjun. I beg you to let me go. Sensing that the green spirit's soul-devouring poison had invaded her sea of consciousness and had begun to control and strip away the 3 spiritual and 7 physical souls in her divine soul, and that Yu Haoran had completely ignored her father's threat, Lu Wan, who finally couldn't bear the threat of death, couldn't help but beg for mercy. It's too late. After Yu Haoran's cold reply, he ignored Lu Wan, who began to howl miserably. He turned his head to look at Zhongli Shuiqin, who was standing beside him, with a look of hesitation in his eyes. Pil Emperor Yu, Shuiqin knows that you and Xiaojun have a deep relationship, and I also know that some things need your consent, so if you have any doubts, you can ask. Shuiqin will definitely tell you everything I know. Originally, after confirming that Lu Wan was the murderer who secretly ordered the black-eyed cat to sneak attack Wu Jingjun, Zhongli Shuiqin planned to use the cruelest means to torture her. But after seeing Yu Haoran use the green spirit's soul-devouring poison to strip her soul, she knew that the torture methods she had mastered were too childish, so she didn't have the intention to do it. At the same time, during the time she was dating Wu Jingjun, Zhongli Shuiqin knew that in her lover's heart, Yu Haoran was not only the senior brother who guided his cultivation, but also the brother who protected his growth. Chapter 1477. In the arena of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, there were three supreme experts who were infinitely close to the immortal realm in the Middle Ages. One was Xingtian Supreme, who was known to be able to destroy heaven and earth. Another was Laozi Supreme, who was known to be the best in the alchemy way. The last one was Eternal Green Supreme, whose strength no one knew. After hearing Zhongli Shuiqin's statement, Yu Haoran took a deep breath. First, he indirectly reminded her that he was very clear about the origin of the Zhongli clan. Then, he looked straight into Zhongli Shuiqin's eyes and asked solemnly, "So, what I want to know now is what Miss Shuiqin sees in Jingjun that made you willingly submit to him?" Zhongli Shuiqin was shocked when she heard Yu Haoran mention Eternal Green Supreme, who was one of the three supreme experts in the Middle Ages. Among the three supreme experts who were known to be the closest to the immortal realm in the Middle Ages, Xingtian was arrogant and bloodthirsty. The number of martial gods and supreme experts who died in his hands was no less than 10,000. Therefore, Xingtian Supreme was also known as Killing God Supreme, which shocked the entire Middle Ages. Although Laozi Li Er's personality was amiable and helpful, his astounding alchemy skills allowed his influence to spread throughout the Middle Ages. Only Eternal Green Supreme, who lived in seclusion, rarely showed his real works in front of the world. Therefore, there were very few rumors about him. The records he left were close to extinction. Even Yuan Sangqiong and the others only knew that the Zhongli clan was an inheritance family that was comparable to the four guardian families. However, they did not know who the real inheritor was. However, they did not expect that the young Yu Haoran could know secrets that most people did not know. This shocked Zhongli Shuiqin, and she gradually understood why her sweetheart respected Yu Haoran so much. "Alchemy Emperor Yu, did Xiaojun tell you the details of how we met?" Zhongli Shuiqin did not answer Yu Haoran's question for the time being and asked with a slightly more respectful attitude. In the face of Zhongli Shuiqin's question, Yu Haoran was slightly stunned at first, then he shook his head to indicate that he didn't. After all, according to Wu Jingjuan's introduction back then, the process of him getting to know Zhongli Shuiqin was rather ambiguous. And for such an ambiguous matter, as his senior martial brother and elder brother, how could he have the nerve to say it in front of Zhongli and Shuiqin? Although Yu Haoran shook his head, Zhongqin and Xueli knew that Wu Jingjun must have told Yu Haoran about how they met each other. Therefore, after briefly explaining how they met each other, she directly explained why she liked Wu Jingjun. After hearing Zhongli Shuiqin explain why she liked Wu Jingjun, Yu Haoran didn't know whether he should sigh at Wu Jingjuan's luck or laugh at Zhongli Shuiqin's innocence. Although Zhongli Shuiqin was not young anymore, and her strength was even more astonishing, but the Zhongli clan's secluded environment, as well as the excessive protection they gave her, made her emotional intelligence still at the age of an ignorant young girl. With an incomparably beautiful appearance and shocking strength, all the men around her either humbly fawned over her or deliberately flattered her. Even if they wanted to use cold and indifferent methods, she could easily see through them. Only Wu Jingjun, who was naturally unsociable and unsociable, was cold and indifferent from the bottom of his heart, which immediately aroused her inner pride and interest. In the next few months of contact, Wu Jingjuan's coldness when encountering problems, his hard work in cultivation, his desperation when training, and the deep longing in his eyes when he looked towards the south gradually made Zhongli Shuiqin gradually fascinated, to the point where she completely fell in love with him in the end. As for why she was dressed as a young woman, it was because not long after she was born, she was betrothed to the seventh son of the Vermilion Bird clan's patriarch, Huiyuan. Unfortunately, Huiyuan was a short-lived guy with bad luck. Just after the two of them had just bowed to heaven and earth, and were sent to the bridal chamber, because he was too greedy for the advancement of his cultivation, it caused his foundation to waver and his state of mind to become unstable. At the same time, when facing Zhongli Shuiqin, this incomparably beautiful wife of his His emotions were too agitated, and in the end, it caused a backlash from his inner demons, and in the end, he burned himself to death. Miss Shuai-Chin, although Jingjun and I are not related by blood, in my heart, Yu Haoran, he is my blood brother from the same father and mother. As his brother, I hope that he can obtain perfect happiness, but I also cannot tolerate him to be harmed in the slightest. Putting away the complicated emotions in his heart, Yu Haoran first explained that he and Wu Jingjun were not brothers, but had a deep relationship that surpassed that of brothers, and then asked with a serious expression. So, Miss Shuai-Chin, can you guarantee that Jingjun will not be harmed in the slightest in the future? I can guarantee it. Zhongli Shuai-Chin, who was clenching her fists, immediately nodded and promised. Regarding this, Yu Haoran still maintained a serious expression and asked, "What if he faces strong pressure from the family?" This, thinking of her father's old-fashioned, her brother's seriousness, and the clansman's protection of the bloodline, Zhongli Shuai-Chin, who had never considered this factor before, did not know how to reply. What if the vermilion bird family, one of the 4 guardian families, intervenes? Yu Haoran did not stop the idea of continuing to ask because of Zhongli Shuai-Chin's confusion. In this regard, Zhongli Shuai-Chin was completely silent. Seeing that she was not prepared for anything, and only because of love that made her dizzy, she exposed the relationship between her and Wu Jingjun regardless of all the risks. Yu Haoran could not help but sigh in disappointment, and then cupped his hands and said, "Miss Shuai-Chin, first of all, thank you for liking Jingjun, this blockhead who does not know how to please girls, who does not know how to be romantic. Secondly, thank you for not hesitating to consume your own primordial qi to perform the secret method of tenderness that can help Jingjun quickly improve his realm. Finally, as Jingjun's brother, I hope that you can go back and think about it carefully. Think about whether you and Jingjun are suitable for each other." In the face of Yu Haoran's last gratitude and reminder, Zhongli Shuai-Chin, who fell into silence, nodded, but did not return to the stone chair on the east side of the stands. She still stood on the edge of the arena and pondered. In this regard, Yu Haoran did not say anything more, and then left the arena in a flash. He appeared in front of Wu Jingjun, who seemed to have used the secret method of tenderness to break through his realm, but in fact, had been paying attention to his conversation with Zhongli Shuai-Chin. "Jingjun, do you blame me?" Looking at Wu Jingjun, whose eyes were tightly closed, Yu Haoran asked with a little heartache. "Senior brother, when you and I entered the Qinyan Peak of the 100 Qi Gate at the same time, I once told you that I, Wu Jingjun, will blame anyone in the world in my life, but I will not blame you." After opening his eyes, Wu Jingjun replied in a sincere tone. Chapter 1478. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Castle, under the arena. Jingjun, if Miss Shuai-Chin chooses to give up in the end, I will ask Ling Fei to help you choose the best girl in the world. I believe there will be a girl who can move your heart. Wu Jingjuan's sincere reply moved Yu Haoran deeply. His original firm idea suddenly changed, and he solemnly promised. If Miss Shuai-Chin can be firm in her inner thoughts and is willing to accompany you through ups and downs, then no matter how powerful the forces that prevent you from being together are, even if I have to be the enemy of everyone in the world, I will bear it for you. Senior brother, if you conquer the world, I will be the sword in your hand. In the face of Yu Haoran's sincere promise, Wu Jingjun, who would not be easily moved, suddenly clenched his left fist and promised. If you live in seclusion, I will be your guard. Jingjun, make good use of the secret method of tenderness that Miss Shuai-Chin gave you to improve your realm and strength. After nodding hard in response to Wu Jingjuan's promise, Yu Haoran, who had returned to the arena, glanced at Zhongli Shuai-Chin and could not help but sigh softly. Then, he directly looked at Ruan Gongyi, who ranked 19th on the list of Central Region. He raised the white cudgel that instantly appeared in his hand and said coldly, "Either you admit defeat or die." "I admit defeat." In the face of Yu Haoran's choice, Ruan Gongyi calmly admitted defeat. Originally, when he had just entered the arena, Ruan Gongyi had wanted to fight with Yu Haoran with real swords and spears, even if he would lose his life for it. However, the relationship between Yu Haoran and Wu Jingjun was closer than that of brothers, which made him deeply moved. At the same time, he also thought of his younger brother and sister, who needed his continued protection. Finally, he decided to take the initiative to admit defeat to save his life. In this regard, Yu Haoran put down the white cudgel that he had just raised. As the 86th contestant participating in the wheel battle was forcibly brought to the arena by the list, a cold light flashed in Peng Yanfei's eyes, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne in midair. Because the 86th contestant who stepped onto the arena was Tao Chuanming, who ranked 5th on the Eastern region list. After experiencing more than 70 matches where the contestants took the initiative to admit defeat, Yu Haoran not only maintained his peak strength at this time, but after the matter with Zhongli Shuiqin and Lu Wan, his heart was currently filled with endless anger, and it was now time for him to display his strength. Wasn't the Hidden Dragon Providence deliberately taking care of Yu Haoran by arranging a strong opponent who was ranked 5th on the Eastern Domain list? Tao Chuanming, a core disciple of the Tao clan of the Eastern region, greets Yu Shixiang. Tao Chuanming, who was forcibly brought into the arena by the leaderboard, abided by the competition rules and took the lead to greet Yu Haoran. Either surrender or die. Just as Peng Yanfei had guessed, the matter of Zhongli Shuiqin and Lu Wan caused Yu Haoran's heart to be filled with endless anger. Therefore, even if the opponent was a monstrous expert ranked 5th on the Eastern region list, his attitude towards the opponent still remained unchanged. In the face of Yu Haoran's arrogant contempt, Tao Chuanming immediately scolded angrily, "Yu Haoran, don't be so brilliant just because I give you a little sunshine. I, Tao Chuanming, am not one of those weaklings who took the initiative to admit defeat, and I'm not a trash that you are qualified to despise and insult. It seems that you have made your choice." Ignoring Tao Chuanming's scolding, Yu Haoran said indifferently after replacing the white cudgel with the supreme-grade Venerable Realm boxing glove. Endless stars. Yu Haoran's move of replacing the celestial tool made Tao Chuanming realize that although his words were arrogant, his attitude towards him was cautious. Thinking that Yu Haoran's boxing technique was able to repel the joint attack of Ji Wenlong and Yuan Haofei, Tao Chuanming didn't dare to immediately use his family's inherited heaven-level sword technique, hoping to gain some advantage by taking the initiative to attack so that he could be in a powerful situation where he could attack or retreat. Fist suppressing the earth. In the face of the sword chi formed by the sword technique, which emitted starlight and rapidly attacked like a storm, Yu Haoran waved his left fist without the slightest panic. Then, after successfully blocking all the starlight sword chi, the mountain formed by the ancestral wizard's inherited boxing technique, which only lost 1/3 of its power, continued to smash toward Tao Chuanming. The heaven-level sword technique that he had used all his strength to display was directly destroyed by the opponent's boxing technique, which made Tao Chuanming's expression change. Fortunately, as a monstrous expert ranked 5th on the Eastern region list, he had rich combat experience that allowed him to quickly calm down. Then, he integrated the fast law and the double law of stars that he had comprehended into his swordsmanship and displayed an even more powerful sword chi. Starlight illuminating the world. The swordsmanship that was integrated with the power of law instantly turned into countless sharp and tiny starlight sword needles. The power of each sword needle reached the peak of the first-grade martial Venerable Realm. Countless sword needles pierced toward the rapidly smashing mountain. Poof! Accompanied by the continuous piercing sound, the mountain formed by the boxing technique was quickly pierced by the sword needles and finally, with a bang, it dispersed into countless energy. Seeing that the starlight sword needles formed by the swordsmanship had successfully dispersed the mountain, Tao Chuanming could not help but let out a sigh of relief. Fist breaking the firmament. However, at this moment, the sound of Yu Haoran continuing to display his boxing technique rang in his ears. Tao Chuanming could not help but change his expression again. Just as he was about to immediately display his offensive swordsmanship, a powerful and terrifying force crossed the barrier of time and space and directly acted on his chest. The defensive armor of the lower-grade martial venerable realm, which was unable to activate its defensive power, was directly torn apart by the terrifying force. The remaining force continued to tear the flesh on his chest and several of his ribs. As a monstrous expert at the peak of the fourth-grade martial venerable realm, even if his internal organs were directly destroyed, his strong vitality would not cause him to lose his life. Therefore, at the moment when the power of the boxing technique disappeared, Tao Chuanming quickly retreated to the edge of the arena and immediately took a large number of top healing elixirs. When he was about to open his mouth to admit defeat, the sound of Yu Haoran displaying his boxing technique rang in his ears again. Fist breaking the firmament. In an instant, Tao Chuanming took out 3 top-grade Sage Realm defensive celestial devices from his storage ring. When he was about to use the defensive celestial devices to temporarily block the attack of the boxing technique and open his mouth to admit defeat, the power of the boxing technique suddenly bypassed the defense of the 3 celestial devices. Not only did it directly affect his heart, but it also separated a large part of the energy in an instant and directly attacked his sea of consciousness and divine soul. This also caused Tao Chuanming, who had already opened his mouth, to utter the word I before his divine soul was completely destroyed. Chapter 1479. The Central Region, the Hidden Dragon Fortress. An azure-robed middle-aged expert beside him asked worriedly when he saw 2 streams of sorrowful tears flow from the corners of his good friend's eyes. "Brother Tao, are you all right?" "Thank you for your concern, Brother One. I'm fine." The patriarch of the Tao clan nodded and thanked the middle-aged expert before quickly stopping his tears. He clasped his hands at Yu Haoran in the ring. "Pill Emperor Yu, since Chuanming is dead and you've won, can you return Chuanming's corpse to me?" Apart from sorrow, there was no hatred or killing intent in the patriarch's voice. This meant that he was someone who followed the traditions of the martial way and adhered to the rules of the game. Yu Haoran had always respected a pure martial way expert like him from the bottom of his heart. As a result, he wrapped Tao Lianming's corpse with his origin force, as well as the High Exalt sword and 3 supreme-grade Saint defensive artifacts that had fallen on the ring. He brought them all to the patriarch of the Tao clan. After clasping his hands at Yu Haoran in gratitude, the patriarch of the Tao clan hurriedly took out the crystal coffin that he had prepared beforehand before carefully placing Tao Lianming's corpse in it. The patriarch of the Tao clan's actions caused the expressions of the experts who had threatened Yu Haoran to change. They glared at the patriarch of the Tao clan with resentment. When the number behind his name reached 86, He Pengfei, who ranked 5th on the Northern Region's rankings, was forcefully brought into the ring. Either surrender or die. As He Pengfei was slightly more powerful than Tao Chuanming, it was difficult to kill him in a short amount of time with just a staff martial skill. As a result, Yu Haoran did not waste any time taking out the white staff. Instead, he placed his hands behind his back and coldly made his choice. "I surrender." As soon as Yu Haoran gave his choice, He Pengfei immediately admitted defeat without any hesitation. This was completely beyond the expectations of the northern stands and the northern region contestants below the stage. In terms of ferocity, Yuan Haofei from the Heavenly Demons sect didn't lose to Yu Haoran in the slightest. When He Pengfei fought with him, he dared to fight with his life on the line. So, why did he take the initiative to admit defeat when facing Yu Haoran? He Pengfei could not help but feel slightly complacent when he saw the doubt in the eyes of the participants of the northern region after he jumped off the ring. What do you idiots know? Yuan Haofei may be vicious enough, but I'm only slightly weaker than him. Even if I lose in the end, I won't be in any danger of death. However, Yu Haoran is different. You all only think that he possesses a powerful inherited fist technique, but you don't know that he is only using less than a tenth of his strength. If I choose to fight with him, I'll definitely end up like that idiot Tao. Just as the number behind her name reached 87, Bing Xuanyu, who was ranked 5th on the Western region ranking from the Snow Palace, one of the 7 top sects in the profound Sky Continent, was forcefully brought into the ring by the ranking board. Although Bing Xuanyu did not have the peerless beauty of Yusiki and Qin Lingfei, her cold temperament, proud twin peaks, and slender waist gave her countless suitors. At the same time, she also gradually developed a haughty and condescending personality. Moreover, Yusiki was also a disciple of the Snow Palace, which made her appear even more fearless. Therefore, after stepping into the ring, Bing Xuanyu did not take the initiative to surrender. Instead, she looked at Yu Haoran with an arrogant expression, waiting for him to take the initiative to greet her. Xuanyu's strength is too lacking in judgment. How could she still dare to provoke Yu Haoran, this murderous god, at this time? Seeing Bing Xuanyu's arrogant attitude, the Supreme Elder from the Snow Palace, who was a quasi-Emperor Wu, revealed a disappointed expression and shook her head. Supreme Elder, no matter what, Yusiki is also a disciple of the Snow Palace. She is a junior sister under Xuanyu's jurisdiction. Could it be that this Yu dares to harm Xuanyu? A beautiful middle-aged woman, who had just broken through to peak martial saint and was promoted to vice palace master, retorted with a slightly arrogant expression. She sat beside the Grand Elder. I hope so. Seeing Yu Haoran's emotionless expression, the Supreme Elder could only pray inwardly. He prayed that the vice palace master was right and that Yu Haoran would overlook Bing Xuanyu's arrogant attitude on account of Yusiki. You either admit defeat or die. After cultivating the complete version of the Great Oblivion Mantra and successfully activating the special physique of Tianhen, Yusiki, who had officially stepped onto the path of supremacy, would definitely not return to the Snow Palace in the future. She would also not be a disciple of the Snow Palace. Therefore, Yu Haoran's attitude remained cold and emotionless as he faced the arrogant Bing Xuanyu. Yu Haoran, even your sister Yusiki has to respectfully address me as senior sister Xuanyu when she sees me. As a younger brother, how can you be so rude and disrespectful? I don't know how your parents taught you to be an adult. Seeing that Yu Haoran did not discriminate in the slightest, Bing Xuanyu, who was instantly enraged, directly shouted at Yu Haoran. Boom! Boom! Just as Bing Xuanyu finished shouting, 2 waves of terrifying killing intent soared into the sky. One came from Yu Haoran, and the other came from Yusiki, who was protecting Wu Jingjun. This was because in the hearts of Yu Haoran and Yusiki, the accidental death of their parents was a scar that could never be touched. It was a reverse scale that would cause rivers of blood to flow. The core disciple of the Snow Palace, Bing Xuanyu, was dead for sure. This was the thought that emerged in the hearts of countless people when they saw the terrifying killing intent surging from Yu Haoran and Yusiki. The Supreme Elder and Vice Palace Master from the Snow Palace also couldn't help but change their expressions. Their eyes were filled with worry. Damned bitch, even if your Snow Palace's ancestors crawl out of their coffins today, they won't be able to save your life. As his murderous aura continued to rise, Yu Haoran's eyes were burning with rage as he snapped sternly. Yu Haoran, how dare you insult me? Bing Xuanyu didn't pay attention to the rising killing intent on Yu Haoran's body. His attention was focused on the word bitch that he had just shouted. As the most valued core disciple of the Snow Palace and a beauty with countless followers, Bing Xuanyu had always been surrounded by praises and flattery. When had he ever been humiliated like this? Moreover, he was humiliated by the younger brother of Yusiki, whom he looked down on, in front of everyone in the hall. This made the furious Bing Xuanyu completely lose his mind. He took out his trump card, a low-grade emperor rank sword, and roared at the top of his lungs. Chapter 1480. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. Earth Fist. Ignoring Bing Xuanyu's hoarse roar, Yu Haoran calmed down in an instant and performed the fist technique that was passed down from the witch ancestor. When the mountain formed by the fist skill was completely formed, everyone present was surprised to find that the mountain formed by Yu Haoran's fist skill this time was not only more solid and thick, but it also contained a trace of the aura of the power of rules. The virtual object is solid and the law is formed. This is a sign that he is about to become Emperor Wu. Yuan Songqiong, who was already one step into the realm of Emperor Wu, was shocked when he saw the mountain formed by Yu Haoran's fist technique. Then, Yuan Songqiong, whose shock was replaced by bitterness, suddenly shook his head with a bitter smile and sighed in his heart. No wonder Qian Tianxin took the initiative to invite Yu Haoran to participate in the Battle of Mount Tai 3 years later. It turns out that he already saw that Yu Haoran had the potential to become Emperor Wu in a short time. Ice and Snow. Just as Yu Haoran performed the fist technique that was passed down from the witch ancestor, Bing Xuanyu, who was blinded by anger, also performed the mid-stage heaven-class sword technique that was passed down from the Snow Palace. With the help of a heaven-class sword technique that was performed with a low-grade emperor sword, a beautiful ice sculpture palace was formed in an instant. Under the control of Bing Xuanyu's mind, the ice sculpture palace quickly met the mountain that was smashing down. Boom! As the ice sculpture palace and the heavy mountain collided, a deafening roar sounded in the entire hidden dragon fortress. Crack! Along with the deafening roar, a crisp cracking sound came from above the arena. Countless cracks immediately appeared on the surface of the ice sculpture palace. As the countless cracks continued to expand, and as the mountain continued to attack, the beautiful ice palace instantly shattered into countless ice shards, and then slowly drifted toward the arena. Bing Xuanyu's expression couldn't help but change when he saw his full-powered mid-stage heaven-tier sword technique being easily shattered by the mountain formed by the fist technique. However, her anger had yet to subside. She did not realize the difference in strength between her and Yu Haoran. Instead, she channeled the power of laws she had comprehended into her sword and continued to perform the second move of the heaven-class sword art. Ice and Snow Concentration. The sword qi released from the lower-grade emperor-grade sword instantly condensed into a gigantic snow ape with pure white fur and a height of several hundred meters. Woo! Looking at the rapidly approaching heavy mountain, the snow ape punched its broad chest with both fists and let out a deafening roar. After roaring, the snow ape soared into the sky and headed straight for the incoming mountain. The Snow Palace's Vice Palace Master couldn't help but praise the snow ape formed by Bing Xuanyu's heaven-tier sword technique. Materialization into a spirit. Xuanyu will definitely become a powerful expert on the level of Emperor Wu in the future. Facing the Vice Palace Master's praise, the Snow Palace's Grand Elder didn't agree. Instead, his eyes were filled with deep regret. Bang, bang, bang! The snow ape rushed to the front of the mountain in an instant. It raised its huge fists and smashed the thick and solid mountain with all its might. It hoped to use this method to slow down the speed of the mountain, and even more hoped to shatter the mountain formed by the fist technique. Unfortunately, the snow ape's desperate attacks only slowed down the speed of the mountain slightly. It didn't cause any damage to the mountain at all. Ice and Snow Concentration. If one snow ape couldn't do it, what about two snow apes working together? Seeing that the snow ape couldn't shatter the mountain, Bing Xuanyu gradually calmed down and instantly thought of a way to shatter the mountain. He waved his lower-grade emperor-grade sword and performed the second move of the sword technique. Sky-shattering fist. However, just as Bing Xuanyu finished performing the second move of the heaven-level sword technique, the sound of Yu Haoran performing the fist technique suddenly rang in his ears. Thinking that Tao Lianming had died tragically under the attack of the sky-shattering fist, Bing Xuanyu instinctively activated his lower-grade Honorable Realm Defensive Celestial Device. However, the moment the Defensive Celestial Device was activated, the power of the fist technique that was infused with the Law of Speed and the Law of Flash directly acted on the Defensive Celestial Device. Although the Defensive Celestial Device of the Honorable Realm successfully blocked the tearing power of the fist technique, only half of its defensive power was activated. The Defensive Celestial Device of the Honorable Realm was completely damaged and couldn't be used for a short period of time. Sky-shattering fist. He didn't have time to feel sorry for the damaged Defensive Celestial Device of the Honorable Realm. The sound of Yu Haoran performing the same fist technique rang in his ears again. Bing Xuanyu's expression changed, and he immediately thought of admitting defeat. Boom! However, at this moment, a violent roar suddenly came from the arena. It made her temporarily stop the thought of admitting defeat. She couldn't help but look up. Then, she was pleasantly surprised to find that the heavy mountain formed by the fist technique was finally completely shattered under the joint attack of the two snow apes. However, the surprised smile on her face didn't last for more than a second. She was awakened by an intense pain. When she lowered her head to look at the source of the intense pain, she was shocked to find that her proud twin peaks had disappeared. Her flesh and ribs were constantly being torn apart at an alarming speed. If I hadn't purposely removed half of the power of the mountain, how could the two snow apes formed by your sword technique shatter the mountain that was almost solid? Just as Bing Xuanyu was watching her flesh and bones disappear, Yu Haoran's cold voice rang in his ears. Yu Haoran, immediately remove the power of the fist technique. Otherwise, you and Yusiki will have to bear the wrath of the Snow Palace. Yu Haoran's cold voice woke Bing Xuanyu up instantly. Then, she thought of the first-rank Tier 1 Holy Lotus that the Snow Palace had collected for tens of thousands of years. It had the heaven-defying effect of reconstructing the body. She immediately threatened. At the same time, the Vice Palace Lord of the Snow Palace, who had also recovered from her shock, immediately stood up and reprimanded Yu Haoran. Yu Haoran, immediately remove the power of the fist technique and refine a second-rank Tier 1 body-shaping pill for Xuanyu on the spot. Otherwise, your sister will be a traitor of the Snow Palace and will be hunted down by countless experts of the Snow Palace for the rest of her life. From today onwards, I, Yusiki, officially announce my separation from the Snow Palace. From today onwards, I, Yusiki, will have nothing to do with the Snow Palace. If the people from the Snow Palace dare to pursue and kill me, I will definitely destroy the entire Snow Palace when I become a martial emperor in the future. Yusiki, who had been guarding Wu Jingjun during his breakthrough, pointed her sword at the Vice Palace Lord and swore as soon as the Vice Palace Lord had finished her threat. The Vice Palace Lord's expression could not help but change when she heard Yusiki's oath. When she was about to teach Yusiki a lesson in her fury, the great elder beside her immediately scolded her with his soul. Chapter 1481. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. Supreme Elder Yu. Not only did he not immediately think of a way to save Bing Xuanyu, the most talented core disciple of the Snow Palace, but he also stopped her from teaching Yusiki a lesson for betraying the sect. Faced with the Supreme Elder's stern rebuke, the Vice Palace Master was dissatisfied and wanted to question him. However, when she saw the coldness in the Supreme Elder's eyes, she could not bring herself to question him. Ah! At this moment, the tearing power of the fist breaks the firmament tore Bing Xuanyu's sea of consciousness and spirit apart. He could only let out a miserable howl before he was turned into countless pieces of flesh and blood that scattered on the arena. Xuanyu. Looking at Bing Xuanyu's lifeless body, the Vice Palace Master, who was sitting on the stone chair, could not help but cry out softly in sorrow. However, when she saw Yu Haoran put away the sword and Bing Xuanyu's storage ring, she was instantly enraged. She forgot about the Grand Elder's reprimand and stood up abruptly, ordering with a stern face. Yu Haoran, return my snow palace's sword and Xuanyu's belongings immediately. After putting away the sword and storage ring, Yu Haoran turned around and threatened coldly, if you dare to say another word, believe it or not, I will ask the hidden dragon fate to arrange a life and death duel between you and me. Come on then. Do you think I'm afraid of you? The Vice Palace Master retorted fearlessly in the face of Yu Haoran's cold threat. Peng, what do you say? In the face of the Vice Palace Master's reckless rebuke, Yu Haoran immediately threw the question to Peng Yanfei with murderous intent. He believed that Peng Yanfei, who could not wait for him to reveal more of his trump cards and expend more of his strength, would definitely do all he could to arrange it for him. This way, he would not owe the hidden dragon fate any more favors. Just as Yu Haoran had guessed, Peng Yanfei nodded and agreed without hesitation, of course. After that, he did not give the Vice Palace Master of the Snow Palace any chance to back out. He quickly formed a seal with his 10 fingers and fused it with the list. Yu Haoran, according to the orders of Lord Hidden Dragon Luck, although Bing Ziki, the Vice Palace Master of the Snow Palace, is not a contestant, participating in the tag team competition is the same as being a contestant. If you win, you get 1 point, and if you lose, you get 0 points. Peng Yanfei explained with a calm expression after all 9 marks were integrated into the list. However, what no one knew was that under Peng Yanfei's calm expression, an anxious panic emerged in his heart. Even Bing Ziki, who wasn't a contestant, could participate in the tag team battle. Moreover, it was counted as 1 round's points. The cooperation between the Hidden Dragon Luck and Yu Haoran was already clear. Taking care of an outsider who had nothing to do with the World Cleansing Organization and mercilessly punishing a subordinate who had been loyal to them for over 100 years, this meant that the Hidden Dragon Luck had long suspected the higher-ups of the World Cleansing Organization and suspected that they had ill intentions. At this moment, he wanted to immediately return to the loft and use a special method to inform the higher-ups of the organization so that they could take precautions in advance. However, he felt that he was being closely watched, so he did not dare to act rashly. Peng Yanfei actually allowed him, as a contestant, to engage in a life-and-death battle with Yu Haoran. This stunned Bing Ziki. This was because in the countless Hidden Dragon ranking competitions that had been held, there had never been such a violation of the competition rules. After recovering from his shock, Bing Ziki immediately felt fear take over his entire heart. Although she was the Vice Palace Master of the Snow Palace, she had just broken through to the Martial Saint realm. Her strength was not even comparable to Bing Xuanyu, who had a low-grade Martial Emperor sword. Even Bing Xuanyu was not a match for Yu Haoran's 3 punches. If he went into the arena, wouldn't he be seeking his own death? Therefore, Bing Ziki immediately cupped his hands and refuted and rejected Peng Yanfei. Hall Master Peng, if this palace master went into the arena and participated in the tag team battle as a contestant, not only would it be a serious violation of the competition rules of the Hidden Dragon ranking competition, but this palace master would also never agree to participate. It's too late. Peng Yanfei, who was burning with anxiety, was not in the mood to pay attention to Bing Ziki's refutation and rejection. After replying coldly, he sat back down on the purple dragon throne and began to think about how to avoid the surveillance of the Hidden Dragon Luck and pass on his guests to the higher-ups of the World Cleansing Organization. Grand Elder, please. Seeing that Peng Yanfei did not care about his refutation and rejection, Bing Ziki, who was terrified, hurriedly asked for help from the Grand Elder. However, before Bing Ziki could finish his words, the powerful force of the Hidden Dragon ranking list forcibly pulled him from the west side of the stands to the arena. Fist breaking the firmament. Without giving Bing Ziki a chance to admit defeat, Yu Haoran, who had been prepared in advance, immediately performed the second fist technique of the wizard ancestor's inheritance, which was a combination of speed and strength. I admit. Bing Ziki, who knew that she was no match for Yu Haoran's fist, was ready to admit defeat immediately when she was forcibly brought to the arena by the hidden dragon ranking list. As long as she could save her life, she did not care whether she would lose face or not. Therefore, the moment Bing Ziki's feet stepped onto the stage, she immediately admitted defeat. However, the terrifying tearing power instantly appeared in front of her. She had just shouted out the words, "I admit defeat," when she was torn into a rain of blood by the tearing power. Looking at the arena that was dyed red by the rain of blood, some contestants who had not yet participated in the competition gradually became serious. Even some of the monstrous experts, who were ranked higher on the Hidden Dragon ranking list, showed a trace of hesitation in their eyes. "Pill Emperor Yu, this old lady's surname is Shu. I am now the Grand Elder of the Snow Palace." Just as everyone present was shocked by Yu Haoran's ruthless attack, the Grand Elder of the Snow Palace suddenly stood up and greeted him with cupped hands. Junior Yu Haoran greets Elder Shu. Feeling the goodwill in the Grand Elder's greeting, Yu Haoran was not someone who did not know what was good for him and immediately greeted her respectfully. However, his sudden change in attitude made everyone present extremely uncomfortable. It was as if Yu Haoran should be a killing god who was even more ruthless than a demonic cultivator, and not a delicate and pretty youth who was like an elegant gentleman. The Grand Elder of the Snow Palace, who was also surprised, was stunned for a moment before she said with a kind smile on her face, "Pill Emperor Yu, as one of the 7 top sects of the Tianxian continent, this Grand Elder promises you on behalf of the sect that we will not pursue the cause of Bing Xuanyu and Bing Ziki's deaths, nor will we send any experts to cause trouble for you and Siki after this. Many thanks for Elder Shu's deep sense of righteousness. This junior can't thank you enough." Although he was not afraid of the Snow Palace's revenge, it was still a good thing to have one less powerful enemy. Chapter 1482. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, in the arena. After cupping his hands and thanking the Snow Palace's Supreme Elder for his righteousness, Yu Haoran suddenly felt that his gratitude wasn't sincere enough. After all, he had just killed Bing Xuanyu and Bing Ziki. One was a core disciple with the potential to be a top genius, and the other was a vice palace master with great power. One represented the sect's future, and the other represented the sect's face. He had killed 2 important members of the sect, and the other party had taken the initiative to let go of their grievances. He had to express his apologies no matter what. Thinking of this, Yu Haoran immediately took out the low-grade Emperor-grade sword he had just obtained from Victor, wrapped it in Yuan Qi, and delivered it to Elder Shu. "Thank you, Pill Emperor Yu." Seeing the low-grade Emperor-grade sword in front of him, Elder Shu immediately cupped his hands and thanked him in surprise. "You're welcome, Elder Shu." After waving his hand in response, Yu Haoran turned around and continued to wait for the next contestant to be brought into the arena. Xia Tianqi, a core disciple of the Xia clan, greets Yu Shixiang. Seeing Yu Haoran staring coldly at him, Xia Tianqi, who was ranked 5th on the Central Region's ranking list, cupped his hands and greeted him without the slightest fear. Yu Haoran greets senior brother Xia. It had nothing to do with Xia Tianqi's background. The reason why Yu Haoran returned the greeting was that Xia Tianqi gave him a sense of threat. This meant that Xia Tianqi was a top expert whose strength did not match his ranking on the list, and was worthy of his respect. "Yu Shixiang, before we officially fight, I have a question I would like to ask Yu Shixiang. I wonder if Yu Shixiang would be willing to enlighten me?" Yu Haoran's unusual return of the greeting made Xia Tianqi feel good about him. At the same time, he couldn't help but want to ask a question that he had suppressed in his heart for a long time, but felt that no one among his peers was qualified to answer. "Of course." Yu Haoran nodded in agreement. "Yu Shixiang, you must have fought Xia Valley Fengzi during the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking battle. What do you think of Xia Valley Fengzi?" Xia Tianqi asked nervously after getting Yu Haoran's approval. After hearing Xia Tianqi's question, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a trace of surprise. He then closed his eyes, recalling the confrontation with Summer Valley's Fengzi while discussing with Thaling in his sea of consciousness. Yu Haoran, if I'm not mistaken, the reason Xia Tianqi asked you this question is probably related to the successor of the Xia clan, Thaling replied with a smile before Yu Haoran could take the initiative to ask. Why? Thaling's overconfident answer puzzled Yu Haoran. Whether it was cultivation, strength, vision, upbringing, or manners, the difference between Xia Valley's Fengzi and Xia Tianqi was like the difference between a firefly and the moon. As long as the Xia clan's leader and higher-ups were not blind, Xia Valley's Fengzi had no right to threaten or influence Xia Tianqi's successor. Bloodline. Thaling's simple answer answered more than half of Yu Haoran's doubts. After all, the Carefree Valley's leader could become an expert on par with the leader of the Yushu Temple's Heavenly Palace, the strongest individual cultivator, and the leader of the Heavenly Demonic sect. The bloodline that the Carefree Valley's leader inherited was definitely not inferior to that of the Xia clan's ancestors. Then, as the son of the Carefree Valley's leader and the Xia clan's leader, Xia Valley's Fengzi would definitely have a certain advantage over Xia Tianqi in terms of bloodline inheritance. However, an advantage was an advantage. If he could not convert it into his own strength, then it would only be reduced to a joke in the end. Yu Haoran, do you know why Xia Valley's Fengzi, who has the advantage in bloodline, is not as outstanding as Xia Tianqi despite being of similar age? Thaling asked with a smile in response to Yu Haoran's remaining doubts. I don't know, Yu Haoran replied. That's because the bloodline in Xia Valley's Fengzi's body comes from the famous Supreme Fuxi of the Middle Ages. I understand now. After hearing about the origin of Xia Valley's Fengzi's inherited bloodline, all his doubts were answered. Just like how Xingtian Supreme relied on bloody massacres, and how Supreme Laozi relied on his amazing alchemy skills, Supreme Fuxi relied on his omniscient and all-knowing formula Dao to make his name known throughout the Middle Ages. However, unlike Xingtian and Laozi, who had already shown the potential of becoming supreme beings when they were young, Fuxi was only an ordinary genius with some talent and potential before he became a martial venerable. His highest achievement in life was to become Emperor Wu. However, no one would have thought that after nearly 100 years of bitter cultivation, when he successfully broke through to martial venerable, the bloodline in his body transformed. Not only did it give him the potential to become a supreme being, but it also improved his cultivation in Formula Dao by leaps and bounds. Later on, Supreme Fuxi's bloodline inheritance also had the characteristic of being ordinary before becoming a martial venerable, but transformed after becoming a martial venerable. This information came from Fuxi's 8 trigrams diagram, which helped him successfully enter Formula Dao. Senior Brother Xia, I don't know how to evaluate Xia Valley's Fengzi in detail, but if I were to compare the two of you after opening his eyes, Yu Haoran looked at Xia Tianqi with a hint of pity in his eyes. However, he quickly retracted his gaze and said solemnly, Don't worry, Xia Tianqi. Then, the difference between you and Xia Valley's Fengzi is like the difference between the firefly of decaying grass and the bright moon in the sky. After hearing Yu Haoran's evaluation of him and Xia Valley's Fengzi, Xia Tianqi's face instantly turned as pale as a sheet of paper as he took a few steps back. A pained and conflicted expression appeared in his eyes. This was because Yu Haoran's evaluation was exactly the same as his father's and the ancestors. At the same time, it was also because of this evaluation that the clan had long since decided that Xia Valley's Fengzi would be the next successor of the clan. Below the arena, Xia Valley's Fengzi, who was also paying attention to Yu Haoran, was shocked when he heard his evaluation. Because as far as he was concerned, if he utilized the authority of Carefree Valley and the Xia clan to force his opponents to admit defeat during the battle of attrition in the Southern Territory's Hidden Dragon rankings, then it would surely leave behind a bad impression that he was abusing his authority to bully others. However, He never expected that Yu Haoran would give him such a high evaluation. In fact, it wasn't just Xia Valley's Fengzi who was surprised. Everyone who was familiar with Xia Tianqi and Xia Fengzi was also shocked. Yu Shixiang, can you tell me the real reason? After barely managing to calm his panicked emotions, Xia Tianqi asked with strong anticipation in his eyes. Chapter 1483. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. Bloodline. Senior Brother Xia, the inherited bloodline of Summer Valley's Fengzi, came from the Middle Ages. Yu Haoran, who did not know that Feng Zhe's bloodline of the Supreme Fuxi was a top secret in the Xia family, decided to tell Xia Tianqi the truth directly. Xia Mianqing, the ancestor of the Xia family on the East Stand, could not help but speak up to stop Yu Haoran. Elixir Emperor Yu, I, Xia Mianqing, beg you to keep Feng Zhe's inherited bloodline a secret. Yu Haoran turned his head to look at Xia Mianqing on the east side of the stands, then turned back to look at Xia Tianqi, who was full of anticipation. He could only shrug and say with a helpless expression, Senior Xia, it's not that I don't want to tell you the details of Feng Zhe's inherited bloodline, but your ancestor of the Xia family forbade me to. Yu Shixiang, thank you. Xia Tianqi's expectant eyes were quickly replaced by disappointment, then he immediately calmed down. He clasped his hands together and bowed 90 degrees to Yu Haoran to express his gratitude. Then he straightened his back and said with a smile, Actually, I'm already satisfied to know that the gap between me and Brother Feng Zhe comes from the inherited bloodline. I don't want to know more secrets. He raised his head and looked at Ping Yanfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne and recuperating. He then looked at ancestor Xia Jinqing, who was on the east side of the stands. He took out a low-grade Emperor Realm sword and said apologetically, Yu Shixiang, I'm sorry. It's okay. Yu Haoran immediately activated the physical strength of the witch ancestor, and quickly mobilized all his original energy and soul power. He smiled and shook his head. Dragon strikes the sky. Fist suppresses the earth. Xia Tianqi and Yu Haoran, who had been talking harmoniously, quickly changed their expressions and displayed their inherited martial skills almost simultaneously. This was the first match of the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking, the most intense match of the 5 regions Hidden Dragon ranking. It was also the match that best demonstrated the strength of a genius. Boom! The 1,000-meter-long Azure Dragon condensed from the sword technique faced the heavy mountain condensed from the fist technique. It either crashed, blasted, pushed, smashed, or swung. In any case, every move was the strongest attack of the Azure Dragon. In the end, after flying less than 10 meters above the thick mountain, it was completely shattered by the Green Dragon. Of course, the price was the Green Dragon's death. Fist breaks the firmament. Earth-shattering and heaven-shocking. Yu Haoran and Xia Tianqi performed the second legacy martial skill almost at the same time as the massive mountain and Azure Dragon were completely shattered. The powerful tearing force of the fist shattering the firmament was successfully neutralized by Xia Tianqi's mid-level Venerable Realm defensive artifact. Yu Haoran's powerful ancestral Magus body easily blocked the earth-shattering sword energy, which was a combination of speed and strength. Fist shattering Milky Way to the ends of the earth. Yu Haoran and Xia Tianqi continued to perform the third legacy martial skill without any hesitation while fending off each other's fierce attack. Faced with the fist-shattering Milky Way that could create a deep hole in the void and stir up spatial turbulence, Xia Tianqi did not dare to be careless. He took a step forward and gathered his strength again to wield his low-level Emperor Realm sword, performing a heaven-level defensive sword technique. At the same time, his mind connected with the weapon spirit of the Venerable Realm defensive artifact, increasing its defensive power at the cost of overdrawing its soul power. Boom! With a loud boom, the sword technique's defense was instantly shattered by the terrifying power of the fist-shattering Milky Way. The remaining two-thirds of the fist technique's power landed heavily on the defensive artifact. Boom! With a second loud boom, the mid-level Venerable Realm defensive artifact was also penetrated. The severely injured weapon spirit fell into a coma, and the remaining quarter of the fist technique's power landed heavily on Xia Tianqi. As a core disciple of the Xia clan who had preserved the complete inheritance, Xia Tianqi had always followed the cultivation method of both internal and external cultivation, and the grade of his physical body was equal to his strength. However, in the face of the terrifying power of the fist-shattering Milky Way, he was forced to take 9 steps back and spat out 3 mouthfuls of blood. In the face of the sword technique that could traverse space and time, Yu Haoran was unable to dodge even with the fast and flash precept. He did not panic at all and directly activated his ancestral witch bloodline. At the same time, he immediately mobilized the Rui Bell in his divine soul to form a second layer of defense for his physical body. Boom! The ancestral witch bloodline rapidly increased the physical strength of his physical body, successfully neutralizing nearly 90% of the power of the sword technique. Then, when faced with the Rui Bell, which had an even stronger defense, the remaining 10% of the sword technique's power only made Yu Haoran's long blue hair flutter. His long hair fluttered, and his expression became more graceful. One was forced to take 9 steps back while spitting out blood, while the other was unscathed. Through the exchange of blows just now, the difference in strength between Xia Tianqi and Yu Haoran was obvious. After quickly taking out a top-notch healing elixir and swallowing it, Xia Tianqi put away his sword and suddenly cupped his fists to thank Yu Haoran. "Thank you, Yu Shixiang, for showing mercy." Compared to the time he had used to block the fist-shattering Milky Way, Yu Haoran, who had easily blocked the sword technique, took even less time. He had the time and opportunity to follow up with another attack. However, not only did his opponent not do so, but he also gave him time to catch his breath and take the elixir. This made Xia Tianqi very touched. After all, with Yu Haoran's means of taking people's lives at the drop of a hat, he should not only remember this favor but also express his gratitude in person. "Senior Brother Xia, you're an opponent worthy of my respect." In response to Xia Tianqi's gratitude, Yu Haoran replied gently, "Yu Shixiang, whether it's the inherited martial arts techniques, the level of your Yuanli, soul power, physical body, or combat experience, I don't think I'm a match for you." Yu Haoran's high praise immediately warmed Xia Tianqi's heart and made him even more determined to show more strength and trump cards. Therefore, he said confidently as he recovered quickly with the help of the elixir, "But for geniuses like you and me, the key to the final victory is whether we can successfully create more powerful law martial arts techniques through the power of laws we've comprehended." Hearing Xia Tianqi confidently mention law martial arts techniques, Yu Haoran immediately began to consider which dual-elemental law martial arts technique he should use next. When Yu Shixiang's cultivation broke through to the martial saint realm, he successfully comprehended the law of thousands and the law of transformations. When Yu Shixiang's cultivation reached the peak of the 9th-level martial saint realm, he successfully created the dual-elemental law martial arts technique of thousands of transformations. After revealing his trump card, Xia Tianqi suddenly took a step forward and asked with anticipation in his eyes. Chapter 1484. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. Faced with Xia Tianqi's expectant gaze, Yu Haoran did not know how to answer his question for a moment. So far, he had comprehended a total of 10 types of laws, namely the law of speed, the law of flash, the law of strength, the law of quantity, the law of the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, as well as the law of life and death and the law of death. Among them, he had successfully created the dual-elemental law martial technique of the law of strength and the law of quantity, the 4-elemental law martial technique of the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter, as well as the law of life and the law of death. The dual elemental law martial technique of strength focused on offense, the dual elemental law martial technique of life and death focused on killing, and the law of the 4 seasons of spring, summer, autumn, and winter focused on supporting. Through the conversation and sparring earlier, Yu Haoran felt that Xia Tianqi was a friend worth befriending, and might even become a comrade in arms in the future. It was not advisable to use the dual elemental law martial technique of life and death that could instantly decide the opponent's life and death. As for the supporting law martial technique of the 4 seasons reincarnation and 4 seasons, they were used for healing and saving lives, not for fighting at all. Therefore, after careful consideration, he decided to use the dual elemental law martial technique of the law of strength to create. Senior Brother Xia, during the Southern Region Hidden Dragon ranking battle, I accidentally comprehended the law of strength and the law of quantity, and successfully created the dual elemental law martial technique of the law of strength within a month of cultivating with the blessing of the Hidden Dragon Providence. After hearing Yu Haoran's introduction, not only was Xia Tianqi shocked, but the countless experts in the spectator stands, most of the contestants below the arena, and the 30-odd venerables in the air could not help but be slightly shocked. This was because the law of strength and the law of quantity could be said to be ranked very high among the thousands of laws of the Tianxian continent, not at all inferior to the law of thousand and law of change that Xia Tianqi had comprehended. Such a powerful dual elemental law power was only comprehended temporarily during the competition, and it only took him a month to successfully create the law martial technique of the law. How could the crowd not be shocked by such a heaven-defying comprehension and amazing luck? While they were still in shock, the countless experts in the spectator stands and the 30-odd venerables in the air all looked at Zhou Mengling, Ji Wenlong, and the others below the arena. Their eyes were filled with anticipation. This was because, according to Yu Haoran's introduction just now, the dual laws of strength were only laws that he had temporarily comprehended during the competition. Moreover, they were not his main laws of strength. In that case, what was the main power of law that he had comprehended when he had advanced to the martial saint realm? Was it a dual elemental law? In the end, did he succeed in creating a law martial skill with the power of law? This was the secret that everyone present wanted to know the most after recovering from their shock. Only Zhou Mengling, Ji Wenlong, and the others, who were stronger, had enough strength and trump cards to force Yu Haoran to use his main law martial technique. Yu Shixiang, although I know that I will fail in the end, I still want to see more of your strength and trump cards. Putting away the shock in his heart, Xia Tianqi took out a bright red pill from his storage ring. After showing Yu Haoran the origin of the pill, he also told him his plan. Therefore, I can only use a third-order, first-grade blood demon pill to temporarily increase my strength and increase the power of the dual elemental law martial technique of the 1,000 changes. Tianqi, don't be rash. Seeing that Xia Tianqi was going to use the third-order, first-grade blood demon pill to increase his strength, Xia Mianqing, the ancestor of the Xia family, who was from the east side of the spectator stand, immediately stopped him. Through the conversation and fight between the two of them just now, Xia Mianqing could see that Yu Haoran was taking care of Xia Tianqi and giving him preferential treatment. Even if Xia Tianqi was defeated because of his lack of strength, Yu Haoran would not take his life. However, the side effect of the third order, first-grade blood demon pill would make Xia Tianqi unable to use any of his strength for the next day and night. In that case, it would be equivalent to giving up on the ranking competition. Giving up on the ranking competition was equivalent to giving up the blessing of the hidden dragon fortune. Losing the huge blessing of the hidden dragon fortune would not only affect his breakthrough to the martial venerable realm, but also affect his further improvement of the purity of his ancestral bloodline and his status as a core disciple. Glancing at Xia Mianqing indifferently, Xia Tianqi ignored his warning and swallowed the blood demon pill in his hand. Then, He began to use the special medicinal power of the blood demon pill to increase his strength and increase the power of his dual elemental law martial technique. Senior brother Xia, why do you have to do this? Seeing that Xia Tianqi did not listen to his advice and took the blood demon pill, Yu Haoran tried to persuade him with a wry smile while overdrawing his ancestral which bloodline to increase the power of his martial technique. Yu Shixiang, I've already taken the blood demon pill anyway. It's useless for you to persuade me. Xia Tianqi shook his head and replied with a smile in the face of Yu Haoran's persuasion. Then, he quickly raised his arm and pointed at Yu Haoran, shouting softly, "Ever-changing!" As a special energy shot out from Xia Tianqi's finger, the scene in the arena gradually began to be replaced by a uniform army full of fierce killing intent. 100 men, 1,000 men, 10,000 men. Looking at the increasing number of soldiers in the army and seeing that every soldier was a peerless martial venerable, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a hint of surprise. Through the sensing of aura, he found that some of the soldiers in the army looked very real but did not have the slightest bit of strength. Some of the soldiers looked very illusory but had the strength of a peerless martial venerable. When he used his aura to sense again, he found that the real soldiers had the strength of a peerless martial venerable while the illusory soldiers were just shadows. Illusory and real, real and fake. Yu Haoran admired Xia Tianqi from the bottom of his heart for using the ever-changing dual elemental law to create his martial technique. However, admiration was admiration. The ever-changing means in front of him did not bring him much pressure. Heaven and earth splitter. Taking a step forward, Yu Haoran roared as he raised his left hand and chopped forward. Then, a strange energy gradually condensed into an illusory axe. Just as the illusory axe condensed, the number of soldiers in the arena suddenly stopped increasing. This made Xia Tianqi's expression change slightly. Chapter 1485. In the arena of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region. Sizzle! Seeing the illusory axe condensed from the dual laws of strength martial technique, heaven splitting earth splitting, and the special aura it emitted, it was able to destroy the soldiers that Xia Tianqi had condensed using the laws of thousand changes. Everyone present could not help but suck in a breath of cold air. This law of creation martial skill is too terrifying, too powerful. A white-haired old man from the eastern stand who had also comprehended two laws and had successfully created a law martial skill. His cultivation had reached the peak of grade 7 martial honorable, and his voice trembled slightly as he muttered to himself. Even Zhou Mengling and Ji Wenlong, who have many trump cards, may not be able to resist the power of the law of creation martial skill. Then, who can force an elixir emperor to use his main law of strength martial skill? Although everyone could hear the white-haired old man muttering to himself, no one responded to his previous question. Because the people present were either too shocked to think, or they were thinking too deeply and disdained to answer his question. Below the arena, seeing Yu Haoran's law of strength martial skill easily defeat Xia Tianqi's law of strength martial skill, Shang Baijian, who had lost his left arm, showed deep hatred in his eyes and endless despair in his heart. Damn it! Looking at the illusory axe formed by the law of creation martial skill, Ji Wenlong, who clenched his fists, could not help but curse inwardly. Because among the several trump cards that he had, only one of the trump cards that his father had refined could withstand the Shadow Axe. However, this was only a law of strength martial skill created by Yu Haoran on the spot. What if he used his main law of strength martial skill? Great! Looking at the soldiers disappearing in the arena, Feng Tingting of the Feng clan breathed heavily, and a strong fighting spirit gradually emerged in her eyes. His strength has improved so quickly. It seems that the clan's attitude towards him should also change. Looking at Yu Haoran, who also showed a shocked expression, Zhou Mengling thought to herself with a cold light in her eyes. In the air, Peng Yanfei, who quickly recovered from the shock, had a gloomy expression on his face. A trace of worry flashed in his eyes. With a cultivation base at the peak of the 9th level of the martial saint realm, executing the dual elemental martial art cleaving heavens and earth cleaving apart was already enough to give him a feeling of danger. Then, what about Yu Haoran breaking through to the martial honorable realm? Furthermore, with the talent and comprehension that Yu Haoran had displayed, as well as the strength that he had displayed, as long as he broke through to the martial honorable realm, he would definitely become a top martial honorable. At the same time, with the help of the hidden dragon fate, when he broke through to the martial honorable realm, he would definitely be able to raise his cultivation to the peak of grade 5 top martial honorable, grade 6 top martial honorable, or even grade 7 top martial honorable. If Yu Haoran used his cultivation as a peak grade 7 martial honorable to display the heaven and earth splitting martial skill of the law of strength, he would not only be able to threaten him, but he would also be able to take his life. Thinking of this, Peng Yanfei, whose worried expression was replaced by ruthlessness, looked directly at Shang Baijian, whose eyes were filled with hatred, looked at Ji Wenlong and Zhou Mengling, whose eyes were filled with coldness, and looked at Feng Tingting, whose eyes flickered with a strong desire to battle. On the arena. Senior Brother Xia, leave the arena immediately. As this was the first time that he had used the law of strength, Yu Haoran did not expect its power to be so terrifying. This caused him to be slightly stunned like everyone else present. This was because he was able to successfully create the dual elemental martial art of the law of strength in less than a month. The support of the hidden dragon fate was only an aid, and the main reason was the inheritance of the ancient 12 ancestral shamans. In the ancient times, the ancestral shamans did not cultivate the soul, and only focused on the cultivation of the physical body and strength. This caused most of the ancestral shamans to be able to successfully comprehend the law of strength, the law of quantity, and the dual elemental martial art of the law of strength when they broke through to the martial saint realm. After tens of millions of years of research by the ancestral shamans, the number of dual elemental martial arts of the law of strength had reached tens of thousands. On the other hand, the law of creation martial skill that he had created had combined the essence of dozens of law of creation martial skills created by ancestral sorcerers. As for how powerful the martial technique of the law of creation was, the restrictions of the Prince's Mansion's environment, and the upcoming 5 regions hidden dragon ranking battle gave him no opportunity or time to test it out. However, when he snapped out of his daze, he realized that he could not use his mind to remove the power of the law martial skill. He could only shout at Xia Tianqi, who was also in a daze. Hearing Yu Haoran's warning, Xia Tianqi didn't hesitate. He wanted to jump off the stage to dodge the attack, but the side effects of the blood demon pill made it so that he couldn't use any of his elemental energy or soul power. In the end, he could only watch as the illusory axe formed from the law martial technique came at him. Break. Seeing Xia Tianqi's face turn as pale as paper and his aura weaken to that of a martial king, Yu Haoran immediately guessed that it was the side effects of the blood demon pill. In desperation, he could only bite the tip of his tongue and spit out a mouthful of essence blood. Then, with his own blood as a guide and the price of suffering the backlash of the law martial technique, he forcefully destroyed the law of creation martial skill. Yu Shixiang, it's all my fault. I shouldn't have been so selfish. Looking at Yu Haoran, whose face was also as pale as snow and whose mouth was bleeding, Xia Tianqi was deeply moved. Tears welled up in his eyes as Xia Tianqi blamed himself. In order to save Xia Tianqi's life, Yu Haoran didn't hesitate to suffer the backlash of the law of creation martial skill. His forceful destruction of the law of creation martial skill shocked everyone present and gave them a better understanding of his character. For someone like Yu Haoran, if you were good to him, he would return the favor tenfold, or even 100-fold. If you were mean to him, he would also return the favor tenfold, 100-fold, or even 1,000-fold. Therefore, when dealing with people like Yu Haoran, you can either be friends with him or be a stranger whom you nodded at. You must not become enemies with him. Otherwise, you will not be able to bear the consequences of becoming enemies with him. While wiping the remaining blood from the corner of his mouth, Yu Haoran took 2 7-treasure resurrection elixirs, a second-order first-grade healing panacea. Then, he flashed to Xia Tianqi's side and carefully examined him with his divine thought. The more he examined, the more serious Yu Haoran's expression became. Especially when he saw Xia Tianqi's listless divine soul in his mind, he couldn't help but curse. Chapter 1486. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Arena. After hearing Yu Haoran's cursing, Xia Mianqing, who was in a disappointed mood, immediately asked with a displeased expression, "Yu Dan, what did you mean by that?" The bastard pill master that Yu Haoran had called an idiot was Xia Wenhui, the one with the highest alchemy cultivation in the Xia family and the hope of advancing to the Pill Emperor realm. Not only was Xia Wenhui his nephew, but he was also the Pill Emperor of the Xia clan who could disregard Yu Haoran's Pill Dao. "What's going on?" After hearing Xia Mianqing's question, Yu Haoran turned around and scolded him directly. A rank 3 first-grade blood demon pill can allow the user to increase their strength by 3 times in just 3 minutes. The side effect is that the user will not be able to use the slightest bit of Yuan Qi and soul power for a day and night. After that, the user will be able to recover as before. At this point, Yu Haoran pointed at Xia Tianqi, who had already fallen on the arena, and said angrily, "And in the rank 3 9th-grade blood demon pill that senior brother Xia just took, there was a rank 2 first-grade sky demon flower that contained a strong poison. Although this can increase the user's strength by more than 5 times, the effect lasts less than a minute. What's more abominable is that the sky demon flower's poison not only increases the backlash of the blood demon pill by 3 to 5 times, but also harms the user's soul." Xia Mianqing didn't get angry because of Yu Haoran's criticism. Instead, he immediately asked nervously, "Pill Emperor Yu, what are the side effects of the blood demon pill that harms the soul?" He was nervous because every direct descendant of the Xia family had a blood demon pill personally refined by Xia Wenhui. The only difference was that the pills were of different grades. The purpose was to allow the direct descendant to use it to save their lives at a critical moment. If the side effects of Xia Wenhui's blood demon pill could threaten the souls of the direct descendants, then he had to immediately inform the upper echelons of the family and quickly withdraw the blood demon pill that was distributed to every direct descendant. Afterwards, Xia Wenhui would be held accountable according to the degree of harm caused by the side effects of the blood demon pill. Shrugging his shoulders, Yu Haoran replied with a speechless expression, "If it's light, one's talent and comprehension will be weakened by 1 or 2 grades. If it's heavy, one might directly become an idiot." Even if his alchemy cultivation had advanced to the Pill Emperor realm, even if he had the Nihility pill condensation technique, he didn't dare to easily change a pill formula that had been tempered thousands of times. Moreover, it was the blood demon pill that had the side effect of backlash. However, an alchemy grandmaster not only dared to change the recipe of the blood demon pill, but also allowed the Xia clan members to consume it. How could this not make him feel speechless? "Really?" Xia Mianqing asked in disbelief. "Senior, I, Yu Haoran, am an alchemy emperor realm alchemy master. I absolutely won't joke about medicinal pills." Faced with Xia Mianqing's question, Yu Haoran immediately retorted unhappily, "Moreover, it's very easy to test the side effects of the blood demon pill. All you need to do is find a captive and test it. Pill Emperor Yu, this old man should not have doubted your achievements in alchemy. This old man sincerely apologizes to you." Seeing the displeasure on Yu Haoran's face, Xia Mianqing suppressed the anger and sadness in his heart and immediately apologized to Yu Haoran solemnly. "Forget it. Yu Haoran was a third tribulation quasi-emperor expert, the old ancestor of the Xia clan. Yet, he was willing to lower his status and take the initiative to apologize to Yu Haoran. No matter how displeased Yu Haoran was, he could only forcefully dispel it and accept the other party's apology. Elixir Emperor Yu Tianqi is the lineal descendant with the most outstanding talent, potential, comprehension, and perseverance among the younger generation of the Xia family. Although it is impossible for him to take over the position of the family head in the future, he is at least a core member of the Xia family. Seeing that Yu Haoran was no longer angry about his doubts, Xia Mianqing secretly heaved a sigh of relief. He stood up from the stone chair and asked Yu Haoran for help. If Elixir Emperor Yu has a way to save Tianqi, no matter what excessive request you make, the Xia family will do our best to fulfill it. Senior, even if you don't beg me, I will do everything I can to save Senior Brother Xia. Yu Haoran waved his hand to signal Xia Mianqing to be at ease. After expressing his attitude, he turned around and began to re-examine Xia Mianqing's injuries and discuss the treatment with the Thaling in his sea of consciousness. After nearly 3 minutes of examination and discussion, Yu Haoran finally decided on the treatment method. He then took a dozen steps back and asked seriously while winking at Xia Mianqing. Senior Brother Xia, you still haven't admitted defeat, have you? That's right. Although Xia Mianqing did not know what Yu Haoran wanted to do, the smart Xia Mianqing immediately cooperated. If I use the trump card given by my family, I still have a chance to turn defeat into victory. In that case, in order to win the competition and increase the number of blessings of the hidden dragon fortune, I can only take advantage of Senior Brother Xia's injury to defeat you. Seeing that Xia Mianqing was cooperating with his plan so perfectly, Yu Haoran gave him a reassuring look and immediately prepared to use a law martial technique. Come on. Xia Mianqing, who used the sword in his hand to force himself to stand up, indicated that he was ready to fight at any time. Yu Haoran, what are you trying to do? Yu Haoran, who had already promised to save Xia Mianqing, suddenly turned hostile and used a law martial technique. This made Xia Mianqing furious and shout at him loudly. If it weren't for the hidden dragon rule, Xia Mianqing would have rushed directly to the arena and grabbed Yu Haoran by the neck to interrogate him. Ping Yanfei, who had suddenly stood up, finally sat back down with a trace of unwillingness and looked at Yu Haoran with clenched fists. Yu Haoran's betrayal and sudden change in attitude caused everyone present to question and disdain his conduct. They also immediately focused on him. They wanted to see if he would continue to use the 2 laws of strength martial techniques, or if he would focus on the laws of strength martial techniques. However, after waiting for a full 5 minutes, Yu Haoran was still preparing to use a law martial technique, which made everyone puzzled. This was because no matter how heaven-defying the power of a law martial technique was, if it took as long as 5 minutes to prepare, then the law martial technique created would be like a chicken rib. 10 minutes later, everyone present came back to their senses from Yu Haoran's gradually reddening face and increasing aura. There was a hint of wry amusement in their eyes, and Xia Mianqing lowered his head in shame. Chapter 1487. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress. As the person in charge of the 5 regions' hidden dragon ranking, Peng Yanfei also had the power to control the ranking and arrange the participants. Even the hidden dragon providence, which gave him the power to control the ranking, could not easily change his arrangements. Yu Haoran had forcefully destroyed the law of creation martial skill he had used and suffered a backlash from the law of creation martial skill, causing his mind to be severely injured. With his mind injured, not only could he not use the law of creation martial technique, it was also very difficult for him to use the full power of the inherited fist technique. If he arranged for people like Ji Wenlong and Shang Baijian, who had a deep grudge against Yu Haoran and had many trump cards, to fight now, the result of the battle could be imagined. Even if he could not kill Yu Haoran, as long as he could make him lose, his points would be reset to 0, and he would lose the hope of advancing to a higher peak martial venerable. However, Peng Yanfei had never expected that Yu Haoran would react so quickly and immediately find a way to heal his mental injuries. This also caused him to lose the opportunity to defeat and kill Yu Haoran that he had worked so hard to obtain. I told you that the son-in-law is not a treacherous person. Emperor Qin, who was on the south side of the spectator stands, secretly sighed in relief when he heard the discussion of the peak martial venerables. He smiled and emphasized to Meng Zhengkai, "Your Majesty, this old official's trust in the son-in-law has never wavered," Meng Zhengkai replied solemnly. "It took Yu Haoran nearly 15 minutes to recover. With the help of 2 second-tier first-grade 7 treasures soul-returning pills, Yu Haoran was barely able to recover 90% of his mental injuries. As for the remaining 10% of his injuries, they would not affect his performance in the following matches. Therefore, after Yu Haoran took a deep breath, he began to truly use the law of creation martial technique. What is Yu Haoran trying to do? Originally, everyone thought that Yu Haoran was only pretending to use the law of creation martial technique to recover his mind. After his mind recovered, he would use his superb alchemy skills to refine the elixir that could remove the side effects of the blood demon pill for Xia Tianqi. But when they felt the fluctuations of the aura of laws, they knew that Yu Haoran was using a law martial skill. Did he really want to be a treacherous villain? This made Xia Mianqing, who had just heaved a sigh of relief, nervous again. However, the doubts in everyone's hearts did not last for too long before they were attracted by the warm, hot, refreshing, and cold aura emitted by the law martial technique. This was because the fluctuations in the aura of these laws were clearly different from the laws Yu Haoran had displayed just now. It was likely that these were the laws he had comprehended. Peng Yanfei, who was sitting on the purple dragon throne, immediately sat up and looked at Yu Haoran in shock and confusion. Cycle of the Seasons. Based on the damage that the blood demon pill had caused to Xia Tianqi, Yu Haoran decided to use the law of creation martial technique and the elixir to treat him after a detailed discussion with Thaling. Through the cycle of the seasons and the cycle of the seasons, the backlash of the blood demon pill would be weakened, and the second-rank first-grade 7 treasures resurrection elixir would help him recover to his peak strength in a short time. This would not only eliminate the damage caused by the blood demon pill, but also allow Xia Tianqi to continue participating in the following ranking matches and not lose the opportunity to obtain the hidden dragon fortune. As a surge of energy containing the aura of life shot out from Yu Haoran's fingers, Yuan Tsangqiong of the Heavenly Demon Sect, the Grand Elder of the Yushu Temple, Hua Shanyu of the Vermilion Bird Clan, and Zhongli Shuiqin, who had been staying at the edge of the arena, were all shocked. As the power formed by the law of creation of the cycle of the seasons fused into Xia Tianqi's body, his pale face gradually became rosy, and his aura, which had fallen to the martial king realm, gradually strengthened. Warmth represents spring, heat represents summer, freshness represents autumn, and coldness represents winter. Through the law of creation of the spring, summer, autumn, and winter, a law of creation martial technique that can heal the physical body, the sea of consciousness, the spirit, the dantian, and the injuries to the mind. Zhongli Shuiqin, who was the closest to Xia Tianqi, carefully sensed the aura fluctuations of the law of creation martial technique as she explained the composition and functions of the law of creation martial technique to herself. Suddenly, an idea flashed through her mind, and she immediately remembered that there was a record left by the evergreen ancestor in the family's scripture pavilion. The reason why Laozi could become one of the 3 supreme supremes in the Middle Ages was closely related to his alchemy skills. The reason was that Laozi was not only a supreme supremacy in martial arts, but also a supreme supremacy in alchemy. The reason why my alchemy realm and ability can reach an unprecedented level is also inextricably linked to the laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter that I have comprehended. According to the evergreen ancestor's own understanding of alchemy, and then combined with Laozi's growth trajectory, he finally came to a shocking conclusion. The law of creation of the four seasons was the foundation for achieving the alchemy god realm. And through the law of creation of 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 the law of creation was the key to achieving the alchemy supremacy realm. Alchemy supremacy. Alchemy supremacy. Zhongli Shuiqin muttered to herself as she watched Yu Haoran slowly put down his arm and focus on Xia Tianqi's recovery. At the same time, the desolation in her eyes gradually turned into a glimmer of light. Alchemy supremacy. Alchemy supremacy. Huashanyu, who was repeating Zhongli Shuiqin's words, gradually cleared up the confusion in her eyes. When she thought of a sentence left by the supreme vermilion bird, she suddenly stood up and cried out involuntarily. The four seasons cycle of creation to become alchemy supremacy. The four seasons cycle of creation. Just as Huashanyu was so shocked that she cried out the connection between the law of creation and the alchemy supremacy, Yu Haoran saw that Xia Tianqi's injuries had only healed by 1/3, and his cultivation had only recovered to the peak of the third stage of the martial emperor realm. He immediately swallowed an elixir to restore his origin energy and soul power and continued to perform the law of creation's second law of creation. Elder Hua, what did you mean by that? The supreme elder of the Yushu Temple, who was at the third tribulation quasi-emperor Wu realm, asked in shock when Yu Haoran performed the four seasons cycle of creation. When Yu Haoran performed the law of creation of the four seasons cycle of creation, Huashanyu cried out involuntarily, the four seasons cycle of creation to become alchemy supremacy. And just as Huashanyu cried out involuntarily, Yu Haoran performed the law of creation of the four seasons cycle of creation very cooperatively. This made the supreme elder of the Yushu Temple, who knew the alchemy supremacy and alchemy supremacy's realms, immediately realize the connection between the two. Chapter 1488. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, in the Arena. Xia Tianqi's injuries and cultivation base quickly recovered as the four seasons law of samsara shot out an energy that contained an even more powerful aura of life. This allowed everyone present to truly witness the power of the laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter. Senior Brother Yu, the four seasons reincarnation and four seasons reincarnation that you used just now, is that the power of law that you mainly cultivate? Xia Tianqi couldn't help but ask in astonishment at the rapid recovery of his internal injuries and divine soul. After all, the reason why Yu Haoran was able to shake the entire Tianxian continent and receive the respect of Yuan Sangqiong was that his alchemy realm was far superior to martial arts. Therefore, it was normal for him to cultivate the four laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter as his main law of cultivation. Xia Tianqi's question was also the question that everyone had been waiting for. No. Yu Haoran shook his head and explained as he used pills to recover the origin energy and soul power he had expended to execute the four seasons cycle martial skill. The four laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter were accidentally comprehended when I accompanied Qian Bumai from the Qian family to explore the cave after the South Region Hidden Dragon ranking competition. Ignoring the shock in Xia Tianqi's eyes, Yu Haoran turned to look at Ji Hanyu, who was below the arena. His eyes finally stopped on Ji Wenlong, and he continued in a mocking tone. Actually, the reason why I was able to comprehend the four laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter by accident and successfully create the four seasons reincarnation and four seasons reincarnation technique is all thanks to the support of senior brother Ji Hanyu from the Yushu Temple. Ji Hanyu. Xia Tianqi also turned to look at the gloomy Ji Hanyu, a puzzled look in his eyes. In fact, it was not only Xia Tianqi who was puzzled. Everyone present, including Qin Lingfei and the Sword Without Trace, was also very puzzled. After all, as Yu Haoran's fame and reputation grew, the grudges between him and the Yushu temple were gradually exposed. With the enmity between the two of them, Ji Hanyu would definitely think of every possible way to get rid of Yu Haoran. How could he possibly be so kind as to help him comprehend the laws of spring, summer, autumn, and winter? In response, Yu Haoran only smiled indifferently and did not explain the conflict that occurred in the plum blossom forest. However, although Yu Haoran did not explain in detail, Qian Bumai, who had experienced the calamity of the plum blossom forest and had also come to watch the 5 regions hidden dragon list battle, explained in detail to Qian Yunjin and An Yufei. What great support! If it weren't for Pill Emperor Yu's profound cultivation in formations, I would have almost died in the 4 seasons reincarnation formation of the plum blossom forest, and the culprit is Ji Hanyu. Qian Bumai did not deliberately lower his voice to explain the situation. This also allowed the crowd to understand the details of the whole thing, which made them sigh at Yu Haoran's heaven-defying comprehension and luck, and also shocked at his amazing achievements in formations. His martial cultivation was about to become the strongest of the younger generation in the Tianxian continent, and his alchemy realm was already the best in the Tianxian continent. Now, the formation realm and talent he displayed were not inferior to martial arts or alchemy. Could it be that Yu Haoran was a monstrous genius in all fields? Dongfang Huayun, who was standing in the middle of the East Region's contestants, looked at Yu Haoran with surprise in her beautiful eyes. She did not expect that not only could Yu Haoran easily break the reverse mystic array and the 4 seasons reincarnation formation, but he could also use the 2 formations to comprehend 2 types of nomological martial techniques of the same field. After hearing Qian Bumai's detailed explanation, the faces of Ji Wenlong and the Yushu Temple's Grand Supreme Elder instantly darkened. The Yushu Temple's Grand Supreme Elder looked at Qian Bumai with dissatisfaction, blaming him for embarrassing the Yushu Temple in front of so many people in the hall. Ji Wenlong, on the other hand, glared at Ji Hanyu with cold eyes. He blamed him for not only failing to complete the assassination mission arranged by his father, but also for allowing Yu Haoran to gain an amazing harvest, and for giving the Yushu Temple another troublesome enemy. Ji Wenlong's cold glare made Ji Hanyu, who had accumulated a lot of dissatisfaction and anger in his heart, explode. Thinking of the trump card he had prepared in advance, he suddenly had the confidence to glare at his opponent. Ji Wenlong could not help but be stunned by Ji Hanyu's fearless glare. Ever since Ji Hanyu had become sensible and learned of his identity as an illegitimate child, his inferiority complex and weak personality had always made him look like a mouse that had seen a cat when facing him. Sometimes he could not even speak properly, let alone look him in the eye. After being stunned for a moment, endless anger surged in his heart, and he could not help but shout with a gloomy expression. Ji Hanyu, could it be that you want to rebel? That's right, I want to rebel. What can you, Ji Wenlong, do to me? Ji Hanyu, who was affected by his dissatisfaction and anger, immediately retorted with an unyielding attitude. Ji Hanyu, did you eat a bear's heart or a leopard's gall, or do you have the support of an even stronger power behind you? You actually dared to do such a perverse thing as offending your superiors and offending your superiors with your inferiority. Ji Hanyu's unyielding retort made Ji Wenlong feel humiliated and even angrier. He faintly could not control the surging killing intent in his heart as he walked towards Ji Hanyu. Offending your superiors and offending your superiors with your inferiority. When Ji Wenlong questioned him, he mentioned the difference in status between them. This was the greatest pain in Ji Hanyu's heart ever since he became sensible. Because he was an illegitimate child, everyone in the Yushu Temple, from the patriarchs and elders to the core disciples and ordinary disciples, dared to oppose him in public but oppose him in private. It was also because he was an illegitimate child that even though he was tested to have monstrous talent and potential, he did not have the qualifications to inherit the position of Heavenly Palace Master. It was also because he was an illegitimate child that Ji Wenlong dared to casually yell at him. Therefore, when the other party forcibly opened the painful scar, it also completely shattered the last trace of fear and respect in Ji Hanyu's heart for Ji Wenlong, for his father, and for the Yushu temple. Ji Hanyu's expression instantly struggled as he looked at Ji Wenlong and roared with a sinister smile. Ji Wenlong, don't act all high and mighty in front of me, as if you're a gentleman. In fact, you're also a bastard and animal who has committed countless crimes. Ji Hanyu, you're courting death. Ji Hanyu's roar and accusation, especially the accusation of the truth, completely aroused the killing intent that Ji Wenlong had been suppressing. After roaring, he quickly walked towards Ji Hanyu. Ji Wenlong, even if I'm courting death, do you dare to touch a single finger of mine? Seeing the murderous Ji Wenlong walking towards him, Ji Hanyu immediately took out a jade slip from his storage ring and threatened him with a sneer. Chapter 1489. The Central Region, Hidden Dragon Citadel, under the arena. Ji Wenlong abruptly came to a halt and looked at the jade slip in Ji Hanyu's hand. His eyes immediately flashed with a trace of panic. It was because the things Ji Hanyu had just mentioned were the evil things he had done in the past. But when Ji Wenlong thought about how everything he had done was extremely secretive, and how it was impossible for him to leave behind any clues, his panic was instantly replaced by fierceness. Just as he was about to ruthlessly teach Ji Hanyu a lesson, Ji Wenlong suddenly tossed the jade slip in his hand to him. Ji Wenlong, you should first take a look at the records in the jade slip before you decide whether to teach me a lesson or not. Ji Hanyu was all too familiar with Ji Wenlong's character after being brothers for nearly 20 years. He knew that Ji Wenlong was a person who wouldn't shed tears until he saw the coffin, so he reminded him with a sneer when he threw the jade slip in his hand to him. Reaching out to catch the jade slip thrown by Ji Hanyu, Ji Wenlong hurriedly read it with his mind. Then, his face turned as pale as ice and his eyes revealed an incomparably frightened expression. Not only would the secrets recorded in the jade slip completely ruin his reputation, but it would also cause a riot in the Yushu temple. At that time, the first person who wouldn't let him off would be his father, who doted on him and thought highly of him. After the panic subsided, Ji Wenlong's heart was filled with endless rage. Because he didn't expect that Ji Hanyu, who usually looked like a yes-man and cowardly, would actually be so scheming and have such sinister methods. Due to the influence of his anger, Ji Wenlong was unable to control the power in his hand and directly crushed the jade slip in his hand. It doesn't matter. Ji Hanyu didn't panic at all when he crushed the jade slip that threatened Ji Wenlong. Instead, he reminded him with a complacent look in his eyes. In any case, I've already made 100 copies of the same jade slip and placed them in different places. If nothing happens to me, it'll be good for you, good for me, and good for everyone. But if something happens to me, 100 copies of the jade slip will appear in the north, south, east, west, and central region. In the end, you, Ji Wenlong, won't be able to escape death. You're ruthless. Ji Hanyu's blatant threat made Ji Wenlong forcibly suppress the anger in his heart and gnash his teeth as he spoke. Likewise, Ji Hanyu bluntly retorted. After snorting coldly, Ji Wenlong turned around and returned to his original position. He then closed his eyes and adjusted his emotions while thinking of a solution. Even if Ji Hanyu hadn't taken out the jade slip that recorded the scandal, what had happened just now would have displeased his father and many of the higher-ups of the Yushu temple. It would have definitely affected his position in the Yushu temple. If he wanted to change this passive situation, there was only one way, and that was to obtain more of the hidden dragon fortune to reach a higher level of cultivation. If his cultivation could reach the peak of a grade 9 martial honorable, then no matter how dissatisfied the upper echelons of the sect were, they would have to endure it. If his cultivation could reach the realm of Emperor Wu, Even if the secret in the jade slip was exposed, it wouldn't have any effect on him. At most, it would just stain his reputation a little. In order to obtain more hidden dragon providence, the greatest opponent was Yu Haoran, who was currently standing in the arena. Thinking of Peng Yanfei's secret promise just now, Ji Wenlong finally decided to agree to his opponent's request. Watching the scene of brothers turning against each other under the arena, Yu Haoran's eyes flashed with a mocking sneer. He took out a Grade 2, Grade 1 7 Treasures Resurrection Pill from his storage ring and threw it to Xia Tianqi. Senior Brother Xia, the 4 Seasons Reincarnation and the 4 Seasons Reincarnation Law Martial skill can only remove a part of the damage caused by the Blood Demon Pill. If you want your strength to return to its peak in a short time, you must use this Grade 2, Grade 1 7 Treasures Resurrection Pill. Looking at the fragrant pill in his hand and recalling what Yu Haoran had done to him, Xia Tianqi suppressed the urge to cry and made a decision. Haoran, if you don't mind, let's be brothers in life and death from now on. Although the tone of the decision was very casual, Yu Haoran could feel the sincerity of Xia Tianqi's decision and the risk he had to take. After all, he was a man with enemies all over the world. Whoever was his brother in life and death would have to bear the risk of being hunted down by countless powerful enemies in the future. This was also the reason why Bai Dongxing, Bai Qi's descendant, dared not make the decision to call him brother no matter how touched he was. Haoran greets you, big brother. Since Xia Tianqi was so sincere, Yu Haoran naturally wouldn't refuse. Moreover, the reason he had been merciful in the fight just now and was willing to bear the backlash of the law martial skill was because he felt that Xia Tianqi was a person worth befriending. Ha ha! Hearing the change in the way Yu Haoran addressed him, Xia Tianqi threw his head back and laughed happily. As soon as he stopped laughing, a strong murderous aura rose from his body and he threatened the contestants from the 5 zones below the arena. Yu Haoran is my brother, Xia Tianqi. Whoever dares to hurt my brother will be an enemy of Xia Tianqi and the entire Xia family. So I hope you know what to do. Faced with the threats of the sword without Trace and Yusiki, the remaining 300 contestants felt a deep sense of fear when faced with Xia Tianqi's threat. As for the matter of Xia Tianqi and Yu Haoran becoming brothers in life and death, and using the Xia family to threaten the contestants, not only did the Xia family's patriarch not object, but there was a look of approval in his eyes instead. The reason for his approval was probably only known to the top families who truly understood the origin of the Supremes. After threatening the contestants below the arena, Xia Tianqi looked up at the list in the air and admitted defeat. I admit defeat. Before leaving the arena, Xia Tianqi encouraged Haoran with a smile on his face. Haoran, defeat all the contestants, obtain the unprecedented blessing of the hidden dragon fortune, and then become one of the top powerhouses in the Tianxian continent. Don't worry, big brother, I will do it. Yu Haoran nodded heavily and promised. After Xia Tianqi left the arena, the list of contestants' names reappeared and continued to arrange the contestants to enter the arena. However, after seeing that the contestant who was forcibly brought into the arena was ranked 73rd on the Eastern Region list and only had the strength of an ordinary peak 2nd grade martial venerable, even Peng Yanfei, who had secretly reached an agreement with Ji Wenlong and Shang Baijian, still looked gloomy. Chapter 1490. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, in the arena. I admit defeat. The contestant who was forcibly brought into the arena directly admitted defeat as soon as his toes touched the ground. I admit defeat. The contestant ranked 73rd on the North Region list also admitted defeat as soon as his toes touched the ground. I admit defeat. I admit defeat. In the following period of time, under the care of the hidden dragon luck, the tag team battle became a surrender match again, causing the numbers behind Yu Haoran's name to constantly ring out pleasing to the ear, causing the emotions of the people present to gradually loosen up. When the points behind his name became 365, and Su Weishui, ranked third on the East region list, was forcibly brought into the arena, the audience's emotions were immediately aroused. Yu Haoran, who had been closing his eyes to comprehend the martial techniques of the two laws of strength, also slowly opened his eyes. Su Weishui, the heir of the Su clan in the East region, greets Yu Shixiang. Su Weishui, who had just stepped into the arena, did not take the initiative to admit defeat. Instead, he pretended to be very enthusiastic. In fact, Su Weishui, who ranked third on the East region list, was not much stronger than Xia Tianqi, who ranked fifth on the Central region list. The reason why he dared not take the initiative to admit defeat was not only because he had a life-saving trump card, but also because he thought he had guessed correctly. In Su Weishui's opinion, the appreciation between Yu Haoran and Xia Tianqi and the gift of the soul-reviving elixir of level 2 was because Xia Tianqi ranked high enough on the list and had a powerful family behind him. Su Weishui also had all these. Of course, taking the initiative to get close to Yu Haoran was not to gain his friendship, nor was it to get the Pill Saint's 7 treasures soul-returning pill. Instead, he planned to wait until they got closer to each other and then use that trump card to launch a sneak attack. After all, someone's secret promise was too tempting. He really did not want to give up the opportunity to transform his cultivation and strength. Either admit defeat or die. But to Su Weishui's surprise, Yu Haoran's response to his warm greeting was the same cold treatment as the other contestants. Feeling that Xia Tianqi was a person worthy of respect came from a sixth sense that had never been wrong. Su Weishui, on the other hand, gave him a dangerous feeling like a poisonous snake, so how could Yu Haoran give him any preferential treatment? Yu Shixiang, my Su clan is also a dynasty clan that originated from the Middle Ages. Our true strength is not much weaker than the Xia clan. There was a detailed introduction of his ranking on the Eastern region leaderboard. Yu Haoran's different attitude towards him might be related to the family behind him. Therefore, the arrogant Su Weishui introduced with a confident smile. Since you've made your choice, you can die now. Ignoring the power of the Su clan behind Su Weishui, Yu Haoran pointed out that Su Weishui had already made his choice, and at the same time, he immediately used the fist technique passed down by the wizard ancestor. Sky-shattering fist. Since he had already decided to kill his opponent, he could not give him a chance to admit defeat. Therefore, Yu Haoran used the second fist technique passed down by the wizard ancestor, which combined speed and strength from the beginning. Yu Haoran's unexpected attack caught Su Weishui off guard. When he reacted and was about to defend himself, the tearing force instantly reached his chest. After forcibly destroying the unactivated middle-grade Venerable Realm defensive magic weapon, it began to tear his internal organs, blood vessels, and meridians. Yu Haoran, how dare you sneak attack me? The Su clan will definitely. The intense pain caused by his body being torn apart forced Su Weishui to mobilize his origin energy and soul power to resist the tearing force, and he scolded with a ferocious expression. But before he could finish his words, the tearing force, which his origin energy and soul power could not resist at all, tore apart the defense of his knowledge sea, and directly crushed his divine soul, causing his soul to scatter completely. Little Shui. Yu Haoran's attack was too fast, and Su Weishui's defeat was too sudden. As a result, when Su Weishui was torn into a rain of blood by the sky-shattering fist, the spectators in the spectator stands finally reacted. Seeing his most valued son, Su Weishui, the Su clan's patriarch, Su Binglong, suddenly stood up and cried out involuntarily in grief after seeing his most valued son, Su Weishui, the Su clan's patriarch, Su Binglong, suddenly stood up and cried out involuntarily in grief. Ignoring the cries of grief from the spectator stands, Yu Haoran reached out and sucked in the middle-grade Venerable Realm defensive magic weapon, the ultimate Saint Realm natal sword, a talisman that emitted traces of lightning aura, and a storage ring that had fallen on the arena. All of Su Weishui's belongings fell into his hands. After putting away the magic weapons and the storage ring into the victor, Yuhauran took advantage of the gap between the rankings list and hurriedly checked the talisman that emitted traces of lightning aura. However, he had never come into contact with talisman cultivation, so he didn't know what the talisman in his hand was used for or how powerful it was. He could only ask for help from Thaling in his sea of consciousness. Yuhauran, this is a heaven-grade Cyan Thunder Divine Talisman. The talisman contains a Cyan Thundercloud that can kill a peak 7th grade Martial Venerable and severely injure a peak 9th grade Martial Venerable. Thaling's divine sense quickly scanned the talisman in Yuhauran's hand and introduced it in detail. I see. After hearing Thaling's introduction, Yuhauran finally understood the reason why Su Weishui wanted to get close to him. Su Weishui probably wanted to get closer to him and use the Cyan Thunder Divine Talisman to attack him when he let his guard down. If he was attacked by the Cyan Thundercloud without any defense, the result would be a serious injury that would be difficult to recover from, even if he didn't die. Yuhauran, my son Su Weishui has no enmity with you. Why did you do this to him? Su Binglong quickly put away the sadness in his heart and questioned Yuhauran with a ferocious look. Since you have no enmity with me, why did Su Weishui want to kill me? Yuhauran raised the Cyan Thunder Divine Talisman in his hand and asked Su Binglong's question. Su Weishui's real intention could not be hidden from the many old guys who were more shrewd than foxes. Among them was Su Binglong, who was very familiar with Su Weishui's character. Therefore, in the face of Yuhauran's question, he suddenly did not know how to answer. Chapter 1491. In the arena of the hidden dragon fortress in the central region, Lu Xiaoyun, who had been forcibly brought into the arena by the ranking board, did not admit defeat, nor did he try to get close to Lu Qing. He quickly took out a long black saber and said coldly, Yuhauran, do it! Yuhauran, be careful. The black saber in his hand is a top demonic weapon that can affect a warrior's mind and devour attack power. Thaling, who was alarmed by the sudden familiar aura, quickly used his divine thought to scan the black saber in Lu Xiaoyun's hand and reminded Yuhauran. Got it. After a simple response to Thaling's reminder, Yuhauran immediately performed the first fist technique of the witch ancestor's inheritance. He intended to use the heavy mountain formed by the fist to test the power of the black saber that could alarm Thaling. Facing the heavy mountain formed by the fist technique, Lu Xiaoyun did not perform the inherited saber technique to counterattack. Instead, he infused his primordial energy and soul power into the demonic saber and directly threw the black saber in his hand at the heavy mountain. At the same time, he took out a low-grade martial emperor saber and prepared to perform the defensive saber technique. He directly activated the defense of the middle-grade Venerable Realm defensive magic weapon to prevent Yuhauran from performing the second fist technique that had the power to tear through the air. Puff! Even a heaven-level sword art with a heaven-level lower emperor sword weapon could not cut through the thick mountain, but it was cut through like tofu in front of the black saber. Then, the powerful devouring power formed by the demonic saber began to forcibly absorb and devour the power of the fist technique contained in the mountain. As the fist technique that he performed, Yuhauran had a special connection with the mountain. Therefore, he could clearly feel the aura fluctuation when the demonic saber devoured the power of the mountain. It was exactly the same as the devouring technique that he performed. He could not help but ask Thaling. Yuhauran, if I'm not wrong, this kid surnamed Lu should be from the Shueisha sect. In the face of Yuhauran's questioning, Thaling looked up at the black demonic blade that was rapidly devouring the power of the mountains and explained with a somewhat sad expression. Shueisha sect is a sect created by Blood Demon's direct disciple. This demonic saber is Blood Demon's direct disciple's natal saber weapon. Thaling, the Blood Demon, was an expert at the peak of the godly realm in the early ancient era. As his direct disciple, I'm afraid he'll be able to break through to the martial god realm. Speculating until here, Yuhauran looked at the demonic blade inserted in the mountain with a horrified expression and said involuntarily, "Could it be that the demonic saber is a divine realm demonic weapon?" That's right. Not only is this black saber a divine artifact, but it's also a high-grade divine artifact. While nodding to confirm Yuhauran's speculation, Thaling also hurriedly reminded him. However, when the ancient era was destroyed, this demonic blade suffered unimaginable damage. Not only was its weapon spirit completely destroyed, but its grade also fell directly to the low-grade Emperor realm. Otherwise, how could the Shueisha sect give this kid surnamed Lu to use? Since there was no weapon spirit and its grade had fallen to the low-grade Emperor realm, Yuhauran, who calmed down in an instant, immediately performed the second and third moves of the ancestral witch's fist technique. The target of his attack was directly locked on the demonic blade inserted in the mountain, hoping to further damage the demonic blade. Fist breaks the firmament. Fist breaks the galaxy. After seeing Yuhauran perform 2 moves of the inherited fist technique, Lu Xiaoyun, who had made defensive preparations in advance, immediately performed a defensive saber technique. At the same time, he secretly took out a defensive talisman as a trump card, so that he could use the powerful defense of the defensive talisman to save his life when the defensive saber technique and the defensive weapon could not withstand the attack of the 2 moves of the fist technique. The defensive saber technique was performed for nearly 2 seconds, but the expected fierce attack did not come. This made Lu Xiaoyun puzzled, and at the same time, he could not help but stop performing the saber technique and look up. Boom! Boom! With 2 violent roars, Lu Xiaoyun's gaze immediately turned to the sky, to the demonic blade inserted in the mountain. When he saw that the target of Yuhauran's attack turned out to be one of his trump cards, the blood and soul-devouring demonic blade, Lu Xiaoyun could not help but change his expression. Immediately connecting with the mind left in the demonic blade, Lu Xiaoyun found that the mind had been destroyed by the attack of Yuhauran's fist technique. The blood and soul-devouring demonic blade was the foundation of the Shueisha sect's inheritance, and no accidents could be allowed to happen to it. If something happened to the blood and soul-devouring demonic blade in his hands, not only would he not be able to bear the cruel punishment of the sect, but he would also implicate his father, who secretly gave him the blood and soul-devouring demonic blade. Therefore, without any hesitation, he directly activated the defensive talisman in his hand. After ensuring that he was 100% safe, Lu Xiaoyun directly used the perfect realm of the law of speed to quickly close in on Yuhauran while performing a close combat saber technique martial technique, hoping to interrupt Yuhauran's fist technique. The fist breaks the firmament successfully blasted the demonic blade out of the mountain, and the fist breaks the galaxy's attack power was in a tug-of-war with the demonic blade's strong defense. Therefore, Yuhauran planned to perform the more powerful 4th move of the fist technique to completely defeat the demonic blade. However, Lu Xiaoyun quickly approached him, and he could not help but frown. The strength of a mid-stage 6th-grade martial venerable, coupled with the close combat saber technique performed by the low-grade Emperor Saber, was enough to threaten his safety. Therefore, Yuhauran had to temporarily give up the idea of continuing to perform the 4th move of the fist technique, and use another set of fist technique passed down by the ancestral which to fight Lu Xiaoyun, who rushed in front of him. In just a short minute, after more than 10 moves back and forth, Yuhauran used a defensive counterattack to force Lu Xiaoyun back a few meters. After temporarily putting some distance between them, he frowned slightly as he looked at the faint layer of green light that was emitting from his opponent's body. Yuhauran, that's a heaven-rank defensive talisman. It can withstand the full power attack of a peak 9th-grade martial venerable for 3 minutes. Thaling, who had long discovered that Lu Xiaoyun used the defensive talisman, was afraid of disturbing Yuhauran's attack, so he waited until the 2 sides were temporarily separated before hurriedly reminding him. Yu Haoran, as long as you withdraw the power of the fist technique used to attack the saber, I, Lu Xiaoyun, will immediately admit defeat. Through the attack just now, Lu Xiaoyun knew that Yu Haoran's physical defense was very strong. Without the cooperation of the demonic blade that could affect the opponent's mind and devour the opponent's attack and defense power, it was impossible for him to defeat the opponent. At the same time, the demonic blade, which was gradually at a disadvantage in the fight with the fist technique, could continue to be seriously injured at any time, so Lu Xiaoyun, who wanted to retreat, suggested. In the face of Lu Xiaoyun's suggestion, Yu Haoran did not have the slightest intention to refuse. Chapter 1492. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, in the arena. As long as the 3-minute effective time of the defensive talisman was over, Yu Haoran had enough confidence to blast his opponent into a bloody rain in a short time. However, before he could refuse, Thowling in his sea of consciousness immediately reminded him. Yu Haoran, accept his challenge. Why? Yu Haoran asked in confusion. As a God Realm superior grade demonic weapon, even if the demonic saber's grade fell to the Emperor Realm inferior grade due to heavy damage, the core formation inside it was not destroyed. Thowling, who could feel the destructive energy gathering inside the demonic saber, quickly explained. At the same time, because the demonic saber has devoured too many life essences in the past 100 years, it has begun to condense a new weapon spirit. If the saber is in danger of being destroyed, the core formation hidden in the demonic saber will self-destruct and perish together with you. With the power of the core formation of the demonic saber, the entire hidden dragon fortress will be turned into nothingness in an instant. After hearing the tower spirit's explanation, Yu Haoran didn't hesitate at all. With a wave of his sleeve, he withdrew the power of his fist technique that was fighting against the demonic saber. This was to prevent the demonic saber from exploding its core array formation. I admit defeat. Seeing Yu Haoran take the initiative to withdraw the power of the fist technique, Lu Xiaoyun also kept his promise and raised his head to the list to admit defeat. Then, after raising his hand to withdraw the demonic saber in midair, Lu Xiaoyun left the arena with a gloomy expression. Daring and scheming, you are decisive. It seems that Xuexia sect has a successor. Yuan Sangqiong couldn't help but praise Lu Xiaoyun, the only one who was able to fight Yu Haoran head-on and come out unscathed. He turned to the Grand Elder of Blood Fiend sect and sighed. Sect Master Sangqiong, you flatter me. Xiaoyun is still far away. The Supreme Elder of Xuexia sect, who had a happy smile on his face, hurriedly said humbly. Just after Lu Xiaoyun admitted defeat and left the arena, Wu Xing, who was ranked third on the Western Region list, was forcibly brought into the arena by the list. Amit Ba. Wu Xing, who was wearing green clothes and had no hair on his head, bowed with one hand in front of his chest as he spoke. This poor monk's Wu Xing has seen Benefactor Yu. A Buddhist cultivator, a peaceful and long Buddhist aura. To think that pure Buddhist cultivators actually exist in this world. After hearing Wu Xing's unique way of greeting, Thowling immediately used his main victor's energy and his powerful divine telekinesis as a demigod to carefully examine the energy in Wu Xing's body. Then, he cried out in shock. Ignoring Thowling's loss of composure, Yu Haoran stared at the shiny Wu Xing in front of him. Suddenly, he recalled the time when he first came to Xianyang City to participate in the auction held by the Heavenly Fragrance Pavilion. A jade slip with a trace of a demonic cultivator's remnant soul sealed in it triggered his master Feng Qinyun to give him the secret manual of the mind-cleansing incantation. In the end, the secret manual of the mind-cleansing incantation turned into a shadow of a bald head emitting a dazzling golden light. Although the bald Wu Xing's appearance was different from the bald illusory figures, the peaceful aura that they emitted was exactly the same. This made him instinctively feel a little disgusted, and his attitude instantly turned cold as he spoke. Either you admit defeat or you die. Facing Yu Haoran's choice of admitting defeat or death, Wu Xing did not seem angry at all as he spoke. Benefactor Yu, excessive killing has caused the tyrannical aura in your body to become too strong. If you don't immediately eliminate the tyrannical aura in your body, you will definitely fall into the demonic path in the future and become a demon who only knows how to kill. Wu Xing, it seems like you have already made the choice of death. Then, I will send you on your way now. Although it seemed like a kind advice, it was actually a rather vicious psychological attack. Yu Haoran, whose heart was surging with anger, spoke with a sinister smile. Facing Yu Haoran's sinister threat, Wu Xing still had a gentle smile on his face as he replied, Buddha says that saving a life is better than building a 7-storied pagoda. Since Benefactor Yu is willing to fall into the demonic path, then Wu Xing will use the boundless Dharma to help Benefactor Yu repent and be saved. Then, he directly bent his knees and sat down cross-legged. Then, he put his palms together and softly chanted. Buddha says that the sea of bitterness has no boundaries, repent and be saved. Buddha says that everything is illusory. Buddha says that there is no Bodhi tree, there is no mirror, there is nothing in the world, where can dust be stained. Buddha says that if you put down the butcher's knife, you will become a Buddha on the spot. Every time Wu Xing chanted a Buddha's word, a swastika would condense from his mouth. The swastika grew in the wind and quickly became a huge rune that was about the size of the arena. Damn it, it's actually the swastika rune that those bald donkeys used to confuse people. Seeing the rune that covered the entire arena, Zhongli Shuiqin, who was standing at the edge of the arena, had a deep sense of disgust in her eyes. Then, she flashed away from the arena and directly appeared in front of Wu Xingjun. Don't misunderstand, I don't have any malicious intentions towards Xiao Jun. Seeing Yusiki and the sword without trace who were quickly activating the power of the swords, Zhongli Shuiqin immediately waved her hand and signaled. Sister Qi, senior sister, let her come over. With the help of the secret technique, Wu Xingjun, who had successfully broken through to the peak of third-grade martial revered realm, suddenly opened his eyes and asked Yusiki and the sword without trace. Xiao Jun, the reason why I didn't immediately reply to Yudenda's question is not because I don't love you. Zhongli Shuiqin walked in front of Wu Xingjun and sat cross-legged in front of him with a painful expression as she said, It's because if you and I are together, it will inevitably cause the family behind me to take action. At that time, not only will your life be in danger, but Yudenda will also be greatly implicated. Senior Zhongli, you and I have known each other for more than 7 months. You should know what I, Wu Xingjun, am pursuing in my life. In the face of Zhongli Shuiqin's apology and explanation, Wu Xingjun gently shook his head, then raised his head and glanced at Yu Haoran, who was dealing with the swastika talisman. After withdrawing his gaze, he said with a firm expression, I will follow in senior brother's footsteps and accompany him to climb to the peak of martial arts. For the time being, matters of love are not within the scope of my consideration. Therefore, Senior Zhongli need not worry about this. Xiao Jun. After hearing Wu Xingjun's deliberately distant and cold reply, the sadness in her heart instantly surged, causing Zhongli Shuiqin to cry uncontrollably. In this regard, the sword without trace, Kong Yong'a and Qin Lingfei looked at each other and saw the confusion in each other's eyes. Sister Suijin, sister, don't be in a hurry to be sad. The one who tied the bell should untie it. Since it was Yu Haoran's question that caused Zhongli Shuiqin to hesitate about her relationship with Wu Xingjun, then in the end, he still needed to give Zhongli Shuiqin the courage to pursue love. Therefore, as Yu Haoran's wife and Wu Xingjun's sister-in-law, Qin Lingfei took the initiative to persuade her. Xingjun, you don't have to be so heartless. Everything will wait until your senior brother finishes dealing with that baldy, then let him decide about your relationship. In this regard, Wu Xingjun nodded, then closed his eyes again and continued to improve his mental state cultivation. Chapter 1493. In the ring of the hidden dragon leaderboard in the central region. Fist breaking the firmament. Looking at the swastika talisman that covered the entire ring, Yuhauran did not hesitate at all. A heavy mountain condensed from the ancestral witch's inherited fist technique smashed heavily on the swastika talisman that was slowly pressing down. The expected scene of the talisman breaking did not happen. As soon as the heavy mountain touched the talisman, the swastika talisman wrapped the mountain like a big net. Then, the swastika talisman emitted a green light that gradually suppressed the size of the mountain. Seeing that the first fist technique of the ancestral witch's inheritance was at a disadvantage for the first time, Yuhauran could not help but have a slight change of expression. Fortunately, his strong state of mind cultivation allowed him to calm down quickly. He then performed the second fist technique of the ancestral witch's inheritance. Fist breaking the firmament. When the strong tearing force came into contact with the talisman, not only did it not directly tear the swastika talisman that was the size of the ring, but it was also quickly wrapped by the swastika talisman and gradually compressed into an energy ball by the talisman's green light. Without the slightest hesitation, Yuhauran performed the third and fourth fist techniques of the ancestral witch's inheritance in succession, trying to break the swastika talisman's strong defense and strong trapping force. The third fist technique, fist breaking the galaxy, still could not get rid of the fate of being wrapped by the swastika talisman and compressed into an energy ball. The fourth fist technique, fist devouring the immortal, condensed into a shadow that was like a fish that had fallen into a fishing net. Although it struggled desperately, it still could not get rid of the fate of being captured. Seeing that the fist technique that had always been successful was at a disadvantage for the first time, Yuhauran was not the only one who was shocked. Even the countless spectators in the surrounding stands, the more than 30 venerables in the air, and the more than 400 contestants under the ring could not help but have a slight change of expression. As for the few contestants who had personally experienced the power of the fist technique of the inheritance, their faces were even more solemn. Although there were still the fifth and sixth moves in the ancestral wizard's fist technique, as well as the seventh move that could summon the ancestral wizard's spirit, Yuhauran did not continue to consume the ancestral wizard's physical strength to perform the remaining 3 moves. Yuhauran looked at Wu Xing, who was sitting cross-legged at the edge of the arena, still using the Buddha's martial technique. He took a deep breath and mobilized his law of force and law of quantity, preparing to use his law martial technique to directly attack Wu Xing, who was condensing the swastika. He hoped that this would be able to break out of the predicament before him. Although Wu Xing's eyes were closed and he was fully immersed in the benevolence of the Buddha's teachings, Yuhauran's palms couldn't help but tremble a few times when he mobilized the power of the law of dual strength and prepared to use the law of creation martial skill. This was enough to show that he was also afraid of the law of dual strength martial skill created from the law of dual strength. Creation of heaven and earth. Following Yuhauran's roar, when the brown axe condensed from the law of creation martial skill had just taken shape, cracks appeared on the swastika formed by the Buddha's words. As the brown axe slowly chopped towards Wu Xing, the cracks on the swastika continuously expanded and exploded one after another. Then, they turned into countless energy that contained calmness and peace that drifted below the arena. Jin Suyuan, who was ranked 86th on the Southern Region leaderboard, took the risk to absorb a trace of the scattered energy because he was close to the arena. He unexpectedly discovered that the energy after the swastika exploded could greatly improve his mental state cultivation. This made him immediately sit cross-legged in surprise and absorb the scattered energy with all his might. Jin Suyuan's actions immediately attracted the attention of many contestants below the arena. They also tried to absorb the falling energy. When they also discovered that the falling energy could improve their mental state cultivation, they also began to sit cross-legged like Jin Suyuan and tried their best to snatch the small amount of energy. However, the monstrous geniuses who were ranked at the top of the leaderboard of each region, as well as most of the contestants from the Western region, not only quickly retreated in the face of the falling energy, but they also used Yuanli to expel the falling energy. The swastika is also known as the instigation talisman. It is a secret technique that can affect the mind of living beings. The scattered energy from the shattering of the swastika also contains the effect of affecting the mind. Seeing Kang Yong'a's eyes reveal a trace of interest, Zhongli Shuiqin waved her hand to disperse all the energy floating towards them and reminded her with a solemn expression. After hearing Zhongli Shuiqin's reminder, and seeing the top powerhouses of each region retreat one after another, Kang Yong'a could not help but ask with a slightly changed expression. Sister Suijin, what are the consequences if one's mind is affected? Become the most devout believer of this Baldi, and be willing to give up your life for him. Zhongli Shuiqin pointed at Wu Xing, who had taken off his green robe, and replied with a cold glint in her eyes. Kang Yong'a, whose face instantly turned pale, looked at Wu Xing with a strong sense of fear in her eyes. Just by the aura emitted by the axe, it could directly crush the swastika that she had painstakingly condensed. Looking at the slowly chopping axe, Wu Xing, who had stopped the Buddha's chant, had a solemn expression instantly. Amit Ba. After slightly lowering his head and chanting the Buddha's chant, Wu Xing directly took off his green robe and threw it towards the axe with force. He then closed his eyes again and continued the Buddha's chant. The Buddha said, "Everything is like a dream, a bubble, a shadow, like dew or lightning. You should observe it as such." The Buddha said, "Everything is born from chaos, everything is destroyed from chaos, chaos is destroyed in all things, everything is born when chaos is destroyed." The Buddha said. Following Wu Xing's Buddhist chant, the swastika quickly condensed one after another and integrated into the green robe that was thrown into the air. The green robe gradually emitted a strong green light. Then, the green robe emitting a green light directly enveloped the axe that was condensed from the law martial technique. The green robe wanted to envelop the fist technique that had been passed down from the wizard ancestor, but the axe was desperately resisting. For a moment, the robe and the axe were caught in a tug of war. Yu Haoran secretly heaved a sigh of relief when he realized that the law martial technique created by the dual law of strength could break Wu Xing's Buddha's Dharma. He instantly took out the white staff that had been promoted to the supreme grade venerable realm. After taking a deep breath, Yu Haoran's slightly bent legs kicked hard and directly soared into the sky. Isn't Yu Haoran's best fist technique? Why did he take out the white staff of the supreme grade venerable realm? This was the doubt that emerged in the hearts of the people present when Yu Haoran soared into the sky. When he reached 10,000 meters in the air above the hidden dragon fortress, Yu Haoran mobilized the complete law of strength and the law of quantity into the staff celestial artifact. He used the dual law of strength to increase the power of the staff technique that he was going to perform. Chapter 1494. Central Region, Hidden Dragon Fortress, Mid-Air. Skyward Strike. Along with Yu Haoran's roar, the staff technique that was infused with the law of strength and the law of quantity quickly condensed into a terrifying force. Layers of ripples appeared in the void where the staff technique passed through. The expressions of countless experts in the spectators' stands changed. This was because just the aftermath of the force could cause ripples in the void. It was enough to prove that the power of the staff technique was above that of a peak 7th grade martial honorable. The victorious fighting Buddha, the only person in the ancient demon clan who could fight against a demigod with the cultivation of Emperor Wu, is the inherited staff technique of the monkey clan's great Emperor Walker. Looking at the staff technique that did not have any changes in length and width, but gave people the illusion that it could infinitely expand. Zhongli Shuiqin's eyes were filled with shock. Then, she looked at Wu Xingjun with infinite expectations and asked, Xiao Jun, did Pill Emperor you obtain the inheritance of the victorious Fighting Buddha's 18 demon subduing staff technique? Faced with Zhongli Shuiqin's expectant interrogation, Wu Xingjun frowned slightly and shook his head. I don't know. Senior brother never told me. Sister Suijin, the staff technique that Prince Consort performed just now was obtained from a special staff technique called the As I Wish staff. During the time when they were intimate after marriage, the two of them had laid in bed and talked about some of their past experiences. Therefore, Qin Lingfei was very clear about the origin of Yu Haoran's Monkey Emperor staff technique. Is it a staff technique that emits a dazzling golden light and can be big or small, thick or thin? After hearing Qin Lingfei's explanation, Zhongli Shuiqin asked even more excitedly. That's right. After thinking for a while, Qin Lingfei nodded and replied. That's great. After receiving Qin Lingfei's confirmation, Zhongli Shuiqin looked at Wu Xingjun excitedly and said in an excited tone, Xiao Jun, as long as Pill Emperor Yu is willing to take out the victorious Fighting Buddha's 18 demon subduing staff techniques as a betrothal gift, then our marriage will not be opposed by the clan, and the others will have nothing to say. Sister Suijin, although I don't have the heart to ruin your good mood, I have to tell you with regret that not only did the Prince Consort not obtain the 18 demon subduing staff technique that you spoke of, even the staff to my will magic tool has long left him. Looking at the agitated Zhongli Shuiqin, Qin Lingfei's eyes flashed with a trace of unbearable expression. In the end, she gritted her teeth and reminded her. Impossible. After hearing Qin Lingfei's reminder, Zhongli Shuiqin asked in disbelief. With Pill Emperor Yu's talent and skills, how could he not have obtained the Battling Buddha's staff technique inheritance? And how could he have allowed the Battling Buddha's natal dermic tool to escape? Faced with Zhongli Shuiqin's questioning in disbelief, Qin Lingfei originally wanted to explain in detail. However, following Wu Xing's actions on the stage, her attention immediately turned to the stage. At the same time, Zhongli Shuiqin, who felt a special energy fluctuation, temporarily suppressed her thoughts of asking and also looked at Wu Xing on the stage. Feeling the attack power of Yu Haoran's single staff technique that had reached the peak of 7th grade martial venerable, and its power was still rapidly increasing, Wu Xing's eyes flashed with a trace of shock. He immediately took out a fist-sized, pure white bead from his chest. Seeing Wu Xing take out the white bead, a trace of greed, indignation, unwillingness, and resentment flashed in the eyes of the bald youth below the stage. This is a part of the essence of the relic left behind by Emperor Wu after he passed away. After seeing the fist-sized white bead in Wu Xing's hand, Zhongli Shuiqin reminded Wu Xingjun and the others with a serious expression. I don't know how many times I can use this Buddha relic that my teacher gave me. Looking at the pure white relic in his hand, Wu Xing's eyes revealed a look of reluctance. He bit the tip of his tongue and spat out a mouthful of essence blood into the relic. The relic quickly merged with the essence blood that Wu Xing spat out and instantly emitted a dazzling green light. Accompanied by a dazzling green light, the image of a middle-aged monk wearing dark green robes with his palms together and his eyes tightly shut slowly emerged from the saraira. He had a serious expression on his face, and his eyes were tightly shut. The middle-aged monk did not open his eyes. His right hand continued to maintain the posture of bowing while his left hand pushed upwards. An invisible aura instantly met the incoming white staff. Boom! As the invisible aura clashed with the white staff, a deafening roar suddenly sounded in the sky above the hidden dragon fortress. Accompanied by the deafening roar, the invisible aura of the middle-aged monk was instantly shattered. The white staff's might did not decrease as it smashed towards the middle-aged monk's image. The moment the invisible aura was shattered, the middle-aged monk frowned slightly. He slowly opened his eyes and raised his head to look at the white staff that was about to reach the top of his head. After a fierce cold light flashed in his eyes, the left hand that he had just retracted suddenly pushed upwards. His rapidly expanding palm directly wrestled with the staff. Although the middle-aged monk had successfully blocked the fatal blow of the white staff with his outstretched palm, it was clear that he was at a disadvantage from the height that he had directly sunk by several meters. However, being at a disadvantage was not the final result that Yuhauran wanted. Therefore, he immediately overdrew a portion of the ancestral witch's bloodline and continued to increase the power of the white staff's attack. Amit Ba. Feeling that the power of the white staff's attack could still be greatly increased, the middle-aged monk's expression changed slightly. At the same time, he softly chanted the name of Buddha. The saraira that was tightly held in Wu Xing's hand directly flew into the air without his control and then quickly merged into the middle-aged monk's body. When he saw that he needed to use the Buddha's essence contained in the saraira to block Yuhauran's staff attack, a look of shock appeared in Wu Xing's eyes. At the same time, he could not help but feel regret in his heart. He regretted that he had been too arrogant and overconfident. In the end, it had led to the accelerated destruction of the saraira, causing him to lose his most powerful trump card. The middle-aged monk, who had quickly merged with the saraira and retained a portion of the Buddha's essence, not only had his body become more solid, but the aura he emitted had also become more powerful. Looking up at Yuhauran, who continued to increase the power of the staff attack, the middle-aged monk's eyes flashed with a strong murderous intent. He began to chant the name of Buddha as if he was Wu Xing. Buddha says, Buddha. A Buddha character that was emitting a golden light slowly condensed from the middle-aged monk's mouth. Then, it grew with the wind into a giant Buddha character that was about 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide. Finally, the Buddha character floated to the east of Yuhauran. Buddha says, Law. The giant Buddha character that was about 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide floated to the south of Yuhauran. Buddha says, None. The giant Buddha character that was about 100 meters tall and 60 meters wide floated to the west of Yuhauran. Buddha says, Side. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Nights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.